Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of The Fan Show, where we'll be talking to a number of fans all around the world, reacting to the game Arsenal 2, Tottenham Hotspur 1, also getting the thoughts of Spurs fans on Ange Postecoglou at the moment, and our chances of progressing in cup competitions. And will Spurs be challenging for a European place, or will we be fighting relegation, because we're now only 8 points away from the bottom three? Now, if you would like to get involved in a future show, The Fan Show, please do send me an email. It's tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. It's great to hear from fans dotted all around the world. And even if you are in the UK, you're very welcome. Come on and talk to us and vent your frustrations. Let us know how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. Now, a guy that I recorded a podcast with for nearly 2.5 hours last night until about 1:30 in the morning, Craig Dearman. Craig, I tell you what, talking to me about Tottenham again today, glutton for punishment, eh? How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm a bit better than I was last night. Yeah, I was very tired last night, very emotional. It does feel like you don't leave the podcast room when things like this happen, doesn't it? But there's so much to discuss. There really is. And you know, I said to Chris today that I haven't actually, this is God's honest truth, I haven't actually looked at the league table since before Christmas, because I knew we were doing badly and you hear things, but I actually looked at it and it's worrying. It is worrying, I ain't gonna lie. I looked today just to see how far behind we were. I know Wes told me on the podcast last night, but until you actually see it, you think, Jesus, something's got to happen soon. We've got to start picking up results. But yeah, we are gluttons for punishment. But we know the reason this emergency podcast was put out there, Chris, I think it's fair to say that so many people want to have their say, and of course this is their opportunity to do just that.
That's exactly right. And for regular viewers and listeners of this channel, you know that I put out updates pretty much every hour or two. And I think I put out one 60-second update today. And I didn't really feel like talking about Tottenham today, I must admit. But since really putting the email address out there, so many fans have been in touch and said, look, I want to come on and talk about Tottenham. You know, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And as we said last night on the podcast, Craig, lots of people have very, very different opinions. Lots of people are behind Ange Postecoglou. Lots of people want Ange Postecoglou to leave the football club. Lots of people, of course, have grievances against the board. A lot of people are crying out for signings, as I'm sure Ange Postecoglou is doing exactly the same thing, although he said that the club are working hard to get signings in. Lots of different opinions. I can't wait to get into this, actually, because although I didn't want to talk about Spurs today, you know, as soon as I hear that music, that intro music, it's like, come on, let's do it. And let's get the first guest on. John is with us. John, we're going to come to you first. John, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good to Talk us through last night, John. You know, what's your thoughts on last night? Because, of course, very disappointing result again. One win at the Emirates Stadium in Premier League competition since they moved in 2006.
Yeah, to be honest, that's probably the most frustrated I've been this season, especially the first half hour of the game. I thought we were terrible. First 30 minutes, totally off it. Obviously went 1-0 up, but again, I'm all about the performance. The performance comes first for me, even before the result. Yeah, 1-0 up, but you know, couldn't hold on to it. But we'd have gone. We could have gone in at half time 1-0 up, and totally undeserved. Really, the first 25 minutes, that was all over us.
What's your feelings on Ange, John? Are you still behind him?
A couple of weeks ago, yeah, I'm massive Ange in. I just don't think we can go in too much on him with what he's had this season in the way of injuries. I know, you know, people say, "Oh, it's just an excuse," but you take out Arsenal's three main defenders last night and their goalkeeper, they don't win that game. They do not win that game without Saliba, the guy that scored, and the left back, and their goalkeeper. I don't see how we can judge Ange this season whatsoever at the moment. I really can't. If we don't get our players back, I can see us finishing 10th, 11th. If we get them back, then I think we can, push on for 6th or 7th if we get them back in the next few weeks. But I really like him.
John, probably a silly question. Are you worrying about the league position right now? Because I feel like a lot of people are getting, well, I say a lot of people, some people that I know are getting carried away by us being, in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup against Liverpool, although that's going to be a very difficult game. FA Cup, of course, is now underway. A lot of people are banking on us going far in the Europa League. Do you think a lot of people are being sort of blindsided to think, well, Ange always wins a trophy in his second season. He said it himself. League position, though, when you look at it, 8 points away from the bottom three for a club like Spurs.
Oh, yeah, that's a terrible position. But like I said, he's had up to 10 players out for most of the season. With regards to the Cups, no, I don't think we should be blindsided by that. I mean, we've only played one round of the FA Cup. If we play like we do without getting players back, we're not going to go far in the Europa. We've got more chance of getting a freak result, if we can get a draw up at Liverpool, which we are capable of, depending what Tottenham turn up. If the Tottenham turn up like we did in the first half last night, we'll be 3 or 4-0 down by half time, and we'll be out of that cup. You just never know what Tottenham are going to turn up, and hopefully he's got a couple of players back then, a couple of the defenders.
John, what do you make of this coming from Grant here? Ange out 5 points from 27 is ridiculous. I mean, the stats are pretty damning, aren't they? As much as I'm still behind him, but I was asking myself today at what point am even I going to start questioning that loyalty? And I always want the managers to do well, and out of any manager we've had, I think Ange I want him to do better than anybody because he's had so much to deal with. But at what point, the stats are pretty damning at the moment, aren't they?
They are terrible. And I get why people do want him out. I do understand it. That knee-jerk reaction, I call it, with regards to the stats and where we are in the table. I do get it. If he was sacked in a couple of weeks' time, I'd be gutted for me personally, but I could half sort of accept it or understand it with regards to how everyone else seems to be reacting to him. I mean, I don't know, I'm not all that great on social media. I'll go on there now and again, and all I see is people saying they want him gone and they want him out. And like I say, I personally, I don't know if it's a lot of younger people, but you got to give these people time. They do not get time anymore. I know, they can say, well, it's the second season, but like I said, he's had 9-10 injuries. Show me another team that cope and would be up there if they had 9 or 10 injuries. There ain't none. Maybe Man City, the only ones.
John, talking about that Arsenal game last night, who are the leaders for you? Because I feel like a lot of people are again questioning the leaders. And I put out a tweet today saying that, the two 18-year-olds, Bergvall and Gray, I thought were our most outstanding players last night. When you're talking about the rest of the team, Jed Spence, of course, has really taken his opportunity as well. Other players, the senior players, I feel like need to step up a little bit. Players like Basuma, players like Maddison, I feel like need to give a lot more in these games. Is that a fair comment? Definitely.
I think it's terrible how the senior players have been in some games. When you've got Bergvall in the last couple of games, what's his name, Spence and Archie Gray, they're showing them older, experienced players up with regards to how they're playing. They've been immense, the three of them. That Spence, like I say, I would have him at right back in front of Porro all day long. 100%. He impresses me every time he plays. Gets the ball in tight situations, don't panic. But, yeah, answering your question, I think, there's a lot to be desired with the elder players. They're not stepping up whatsoever. They're not even helping the younger ones. The younger ones are showing the elder ones how to do it.
You touched on Spence there, John. I've been a fan of Jed Spence since he came to the club. Obviously watched him when he was at Forest. Thought he was a really good acquisition. Didn't get a chance, but Do you think that Spence should not be a backup to Porro? Is there an argument to say you could even play both of them because they're both good going forward? Could you see a system where they're both playing on the right hand side, and do you think that would work?
Possibly. Although to be honest, I mean, if Porro, hit top form, I would prefer Spence at left back rather than Udogie. To be honest with you,
really,
I rate him that much. I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought Udogie first season was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But this season, when he's played early part of the season, he gave away so many goals. I thought he's been poor this year. There's a good player in him, but it's finding that form.
John, last question for you. Of course, Spurs travel to Goodison Park for the last time before they move to their new ground in the summer. How do you feel like Spurs are going to get on Sunday?
I can't believe, to be honest, I can't believe or accept that we will lose to Everton. And if we do lose to Everton on the Sunday, again, I won't necessarily be blaming the manager. For me, it'd be on the players. I can only see us beating Everton because even with our injuries, with the 11 we put out, all right, some of them might be a bit tired, but the 11 we put out are better than the 11 that Everton will be putting out. So there's no excuses for Sunday to not beat Everton. I wouldn't be Ange out if we did lose. Like I say, depends how the game went and everything. It's like last night. It weren't Ange's fault that Basuma lost the ball on the halfway line for the second goal. That's not the manager's fault. It's not the manager's fault that they got a corner and it shouldn't have been given, and Dragerson bad marking with the header. That's not Ange's fault.
Yeah, I get some of those points, John. I just feel like, as we all know, football is a results-led business, and when the results aren't going your way, and I saw a stat since November, since that City win, if the league table was since that City win, that 4-0 at the Etihad, Spurs would be in the bottom three. So, of course, results need to pick up, very quickly. John, thanks so much for calling in, and thank you so much for being a part of the show, and thanks for all your input in the last couple of weeks, because I know you've been on a lot of shows with Barnaby as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. I really enjoy it. Thanks to the pair of you.
Cheers, John. Speak to you soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Craig, just going to take this comment from Jason. Jason, thank you so much for your comment. And if you'd like to come on the show one day, please do send me an email, tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. Craig, Jason writes here, we lost to poor sides when at full strength under Ange Postecoglou. Number two, his tactics and match intensity training causing repeat injuries. We never have full fit squad again under Ange. It is very, very frustrating, Craig, isn't it? And when we speak on the podcast week in, week out, how many times have we said or mentioned about all of these injury problems? But as I've mentioned, it is a results-led business. And how long can this continue that we keep losing games? And when you look at the stats, and I tell you what, I've tried to avoid social media today, Craig. I've gone on there a couple of times. My God, there are stats galore against Ange Postecoglou. I know there are a lot of agendas. A lot of people want Ange Postecoglou gone. So, of course, all of these amazing stats do come out. And let's face it, as I said, we've only won once there at the Emirates since 2006 in the Premier League. I get all of the injuries. That's why I feel so frustrated. I feel so torn because I want it to work under Ange Postecoglou. And that's why I feel like doing this show tonight. I just want to hear a mixture of fans of why they are for Ange Postecoglou and why they're against. But do you want to react to Jason's comment here before we take the next guest?
He's spot on about the injuries. We've discussed it time and time again on the podcast. It's we've had discussions on whether it's the training, whether it's the intensity, whether it's the sheer bad luck, a mixture of everything. I would love to see Ange have a fully fit squad for a few weeks, or at least like have the same starting 11 for a few weeks, because I said last night, first 10 games last season, it was fairly balanced and stable side, wasn't it? And it was only then that things started to fall apart. Yeah, we'd had some dodgy games. I mean, the Luton away game, obviously Basuma lost his head and got sent off, and we won 1-0. Mickey van der Ven scoring wasn't the best performance, but there were some really good performances in there. And there've been some good performances this year. It's just been so hit and miss. and the injuries have really took its toll across the squad, and must be tearing his hair out. I don't think there's been a manager in recent history, recent memory, certainly in mine, that polarises fan base how Ange does it at the moment. I know Conte to a degree and Jose, but that was more towards perhaps the end. But Ange has kind of had to deal with this almost since last December sort of time. So it's been a stressful time for all of us, not least Ange Postecoglou, because we all know what Daniel Levy is like. There'll be a point, and whatever that tipping point will be, but there'll be a point where if the results don't go his way, we all know what's going to happen.
One thing about Ange is he never ever hides his feelings or how he feels on his face. If he's annoyed, he looks annoyed. He sounds annoyed. He sounded annoyed last night. He said it is not good enough. Heung-min Son come out and said it's painful. And of course, we've heard these words before. Harry Kane, Hugo Lloris, now Heung-min Son. Let's talk to Melvyn next. Melvyn, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you? Of course, frustrating night at the Emirates, another defeat. Melvyn, react to the comments from Ange Postecoglou, because, of course, he was not happy at all last night. And, of course, we all get that. Heung-min Son come out and said, again, it's painful. Heung-min Son looked like he was going to burst into tears in that post-match interview.
Yeah, it's frustrating because it's frustrating, but in a way, it's not surprising because we've not been in form, and Arsenal have been competing for the league for the last 2 seasons. This is their 3rd year they're in a title race, and we're still, learning how to walk in a sense, because we're still very early in this project, very early in this rebuild. Like you said, we have 18-year-olds playing. They had an 18-year-old playing as well. Postecoglou questioned, the quality of the team, and he expected maybe a bit more. I think we all expected a bit more from them, but in a sense, I think Gary summed it up well when we spoke. It's like, it's frustrating because we want more of this team, but the only thing we can get out of them, I'm sure, it's difficult. It's difficult to. We're how do you say? We're stuck at the moment in a rut, but it's like we need a victory soon to help the team. I mean, we keep being really unlucky with refereeing decisions, and it's not easy at the moment. I'm even struggling to explain how I'm feeling. I'm frustrated. I'm a bit angry.
Melvyn, I'm going to ask you this, and it's not how I feel, but we recorded the podcast last night, and there are a lot of very, very different opinions, and I've seen a lot of different opinions on online today as well. When you talk about early in the rebuild, there's a comment there laughing about that, saying early on the rebuild. I don't think so, and to keep using the excuses, and I feel like I've done the same on this podcast throughout the whole of this season, certainly about the injuries. It's about results. Can we keep blaming the injuries, or do we have to look at some of these players to actually step up and give more and win football matches?
Yeah, I'm not blaming the injuries because it wasn't Dragison's fault that we lost, or Archie Gray. Yes, you can say the corner Dragison should have done a bit better, but I feel the midfield is really, really weak, and it's been like that all season, and we're not struggling in midfield, with injuries. We're struggling in defense. I just feel the midfield is the problem, honestly. We struggle to create. We struggle to get the ball to Solanke. We struggle to protect the defense in moments. And we've not seen any growth from Bissouma. We've not seen any growth from Bentancur because he keeps missing games. And if you don't play the games, then, questions need to be asked of these players. I've seen more growth in Bergvall and Archie Gray in the last 3 games than I've seen in Bissouma since he's been at the club. So question marks need to ask about the players. I don't think the problem is the defense because the defense has played well. Spence has been really, really good. Positive spark. Pedro Porro was knackered, and yesterday could have got us the point. I am fully behind Ange Postecoglou. I know the results don't reflect it. The results really don't reflect it. But you know me because we speak on the chat, in our little group, and
Yeah.
I don't think Postecoglou is the problem. Just like how I sit in the camp where I didn't think Jose Mourinho was the problem. I didn't think Antonio Conte was the problem. I always thought the playing squad was the problem. I always thought the quality that we had. I think Harry Kane and Heung-min Son for years have been papering over the cracks. They've been saving us time and time again, and it showed the deficiencies in recruitment, the quality that we've been signing. We spent the Champions League money. We threw it down the drain. We spent it on players that did nothing for the club, and we're still struggling, to offload them. I think some of them are on loan. We're still trying to pay off the mistakes of recruitment that we made years ago. Hopefully, the recruitment
Melvyn,
seems to have improved. Yeah.
Mel, sorry, you just want to touch on what you said there about recruitment. It was clear from before New Year, in pressers, that he was asked, and he said many times, we need reinforcements, we need to bring players in. We've brought a goalkeeper in who I think everyone agree, all right, he had some dodgy moments last night, but he's a good keeper. You can see there's talent there.
Yeah.
But we all know where we need strengthening in this squad. Why haven't Spurs got players over the line yet?
I'd rather not buy anyone, to be honest. So this is my honest opinion. Wait. I'll explain why. If we buy the wrong player, Chris, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Chris.
Sorry, I was saying we need players, Melvyn. Postecoglou's come out and said a number of times that we need players in. He needs help. We definitely need players in, and of real quality. And we need to show ambition as a football club.
This makes me extremely angry. I don't want the wrong players at this football club.
Neither does he.
I don't want the wrong players. I think we got saved by Kolo Muani going to Juventus. He didn't want to come to the club. He wanted Champions League football. I want players that want to come to the football club, like Vicario did, like all the players that have signed, and I want players that fit the system and not panic buys. Yes, in the long term, yes, we need players, but I don't want the wrong profile of players. I want players that are going to fit long term, and I think we really have the cornerstones of a really good squad and a really good team. We're starting to build around Archie Gray, around Lucas Bergvall, around the new goalkeeper who I really like. When Romero and Van de Ven come back, and hopefully they're not just put straight in and they have to win back their place. I think Archie Gray's been playing brilliantly at the back, and Dragozin hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been brilliant either. But he's learning. He's still 22 as a central defender. That's extremely young for a defender. We have a good squad, but they're still very young. Our two most experienced players are Heung-min Son, Davis, and Timo Werner, which shows how young the squad is. Most of the squad doesn't even have most than 90 appearances. 90 appearances. I'm happy that these players now, the 18-year-olds, have more than 20. So we're still a very young squad. And Postecoglou mentioned this many times. I hope I'm still here to benefit from Archie Gray and Bergvall when they hit their peak, when they become Premier League. The team is still learning to win. I don't think we know how to win yet. We don't know how to game manage. Arsenal beat us by physicality, by winning the ball high up the pitch. And people say Postecoglou's not pragmatic. Yesterday's first half was exactly how Conte used to play. We were tight, we were compact, and we were playing with counter-attacking football. So people that wanted Jose sacked, people that wanted Conte sacked, why did you want them sacked? The problem wasn't the managers. The problem was the players. And
Melvyn,
we had poor
doesn't it
for years?
Melvyn, sorry, doesn't it go back though? The question was about recruitment. I get what you're saying. We don't just want anybody. I agree with you there, but they've had since the transfer window shut in September, I think it was early September, to plan this transfer window, and that's what they've been doing. We've been led to believe they've been planning, queuing their targets up. and we've done nothing again. And I know Brian Daigle is in the green room at the moment. I bet Brian is itching to have his say on this, and I know he's going to agree with me. Why haven't we done more already?
We'll go to Brian next. Melvyn, let me just ask you. I knew that there was going to be a lot of mixed and different opinions today, but I didn't expect a guest, particularly you, to come on and say that we don't need anyone in the transfer window, because
it's not what I said. I don't want the wrong player. I don't want us to sign a player and we're stuck with him for the next 4 or 5 years.
No one wants the wrong players.
Yes, and that's what I don't want another team of Werner, Chris. This is what I'm saying. I don't want to go down that line. I rather continue the season with the players that we have and bring back the players that we have fit and play the ones that we have. I don't want the wrong players. And then in the summer we can buy our first choice target. Because honestly, what's the highest we can get to this season? 8th place? Chris, honestly, what's the highest we can get to this season? We cannot get Champions League football. With the fixtures we have remaining, we're not going to get Champions League.
Do you know, it's a very good question, because at the moment we're 11 points away from the top 7. 11 from the top 7.
Chris, we're in a moment in our club where we can give priority to all the cups, all 3 of them that we are in. This is something that you love the cups, Chris. You love the FA Cup, you love the League Cup, and you love the Europa League. We can give them 100% go. We have to stay. We have to stay up. We don't want to get relegated. But we're in a position this season where we're not going to get top 4. I don't think we can even finish 5th or 6th. Honestly, we cannot. I think
Melvyn, last question for you. Do you think that Ange Postecoglou will be in charge of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club the next time we play a cup competition?
I honestly, I pray to God. I pray to God that Postecoglou is still our manager next season. I really want us to go through with this. I don't want us to be the club that sacks a manager without giving him a real go. I think backing him is not backing him financially. I think you back a manager with time, because he needs time. I don't think he just needs finances. Yes, he needs the right profile of player, and the recruitment's improved 100%. You've just seen with the goalkeeper that the goalkeeper was a summer target. It wasn't even a January target. So I don't know where the January targets are hiding, because that was a summer target, which was pushed forward so we can have a goalkeeper to play Liverpool. So I don't think the manager is going to be sacked, because Antonio Conte, Jose, and Nuno Espirito Santo were sacked for doing a lot better than he's doing right now. I think there's like internally within the football club, there's an admission that they went wrong with the recruitment. They went wrong with the style of play, with not backing the manager. I think there's an admission, because historically we would have sacked him by October or November when points per game was dropping, and I think there's an admission internally where they have a plan long term. I don't think the plan is to win now or to even win next season. I think the plan is to be a club where we're a home for the best young talent, and then we grow from there. And then we're not in a position to buy £100 million players at the moment. We're not, because £100 million player won't come to us right now. People can call me deluded or happy clapper or all the names. It's just I'm gonna say the same thing that Mr. Box Office says. This is what I see. This is how I see it. I'm sure all the fans that come on here might see it differently. Some people think he's clueless, he doesn't know what he's doing. But this is my opinion. This is what I see, and this is what I believe this football club is doing. And I'm behind the manager. I'm behind the manager and behind this team, and I will support them every single game. And I'm going to go to a few games this season, because you support the team when they're doing poorly, because that's what a football fan does. This is my football club, and I will support them when they are bad, and I will enjoy it when they are good.
Yeah, well said. And don't worry about a couple of dodgy comments. Craig and I get a lot worse than you do. And like I said yesterday, when no one's right, no one's wrong. We've all got opinions. Some are very different to ours, but every opinion counts. Thank you so much, Melvyn, for calling in, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you, mate.
All the best, guys.
Cheers, mate.
See you, Mel.
Right, we're going to go to Brian. We've got quite a lot of people in the green room, so thank you so much for all of your patience. I'll get to you as soon as possible. We're going to go to Brian because I think Brian has literally nipped out of work. Brian, I hope your boss doesn't watch this channel. How are you?
It's one of the joys of living in Canada, Chris. Not a lot of senior management are into to football. I won't call it the S word. They call it here. That's sacrilege to me. Chris, Craig, everyone in the chat, I hope you're good and well, first and foremost.
Brian,
doing, Brian?
I think it's fair to say that you have quite an out there opinion sometimes on Tottenham. You're a regular, of course, on the Spurs Chat podcast. You're on here a lot. How are you feeling after that? Because you've probably seen all of the stats like I have today, stats galore. I've seen a couple of your tweets today. How are you feeling?
Heartbroken, disconnected, outraged, all the emotions. Those stats. I mean, I went to do my bit on We Are Tottenham TV, Chris, yesterday, and then when someone messaged me to say we've lost more games than Ipswich, and bear in mind, Ipswich hadn't won a game till they played us in November the 10th. The stat you said about after that Manchester City game, the 4-0, if this was the form table, we're 18th. 5 points out of 27. It doesn't matter how you feel about a manager or a club. Those are unacceptable numbers. They really are. They really are. We've sacked managers for doing better. Yet somehow this guy. Look, we all joke about Nuno and the style of play, and he was higher than us. He had less games than us. We've had so many managers. Conte had us in the top 4. Redknapp, Joel, I can go through the list. This is just not. Any other big club wouldn't accept this.
Brian, I don't want to go down a depressing route of reading all these stats out because honestly, there are a lot of stats out there today. What needs to change in the short term right now? Because we heard Melvyn say there about signings. He doesn't want the wrong signings in. Of course, any of us Spurs fans don't want the wrong signings in. And Postecoglou has said this recently, doesn't want players in just for the sake of it. They must be the right players to fit his system. They must be the right fit for the football club, etc., etc. What needs to happen in this short term for Spurs to climb up that Premier League table? Because the viewing of the Premier League table is not good at the moment. 13th in the table. It could be 14th in a couple of hours' time if Manchester United, or should I say when Manchester United beat Southampton, because Southampton have been so poor this season. What needs to happen in the short term for you?
So short term for me, first of all, with the club coming out today, or we've seen all the rumours that the club have again said we're fully behind Ange. This is the man for the job. Well, whether I think that is, and yes, today was the first time I actually said, listen, I can't defend the manager anymore. We need a change because nothing is changing. But where I'm getting with that, if the club are coming out and saying he's our guy, he's our man to take us forward, we're halfway through a transfer window. How about rather than just talking the talk, you start walking the walk and bring in ready-made first-team players to help him? Kulusevski is absolutely knackered. He is our best player of this season, and he's playing best at centre or in the attacking midfield. But because of Johnson's inability to keep form or whatever, we're having to put him out there. There's no rest for him. Sonny looks knackered. These players are, if they're not injured, they're shattered. He needs bodies. He needs help. We can't trust our players to stay fit. It's incredible that the youngsters, Chris, we did the QPR game, and a lot of the pre-season games, if you look at it, those youngsters that came in on the second half, your Alfie Devines, your Lankshears, your Moores, your Spences, your Lucas, your Bergvall,
They always gave more.
They were giving more and playing with more passion in friendlies. Well, yesterday, you had Gray, who I will say, what a player. He is growing with every single game. He is playing at centre-back that isn't his position. Jed Spence, who is now playing, but he's only playing because the injuries are so bare that he's giving him his chance. And Bergvall, the youngsters are showing the way for the senior players. These senior players are just walking around like it's a paycheck. He needs players, quality players, to come in and help. There's got to be some kind of change in the style of play because it's not working. It's not working. If you look at some of the games, when we're going on the when Arsenal on the counter attack, Pedro Porro's up for right wing position, or Jed Spence is up there. There's no shape. We may start in a shape, but throughout the game, I mean, if Arsenal had a striker, and if we have a striker, we can't get any service to him. He needs major help.
Brian, why do you think is it? I think I know the answer to this, but am I deluded thinking that the club were going to change and get 2 or 3 transfers in through the door early after all these months of research we've been told they were doing?
Yep. Do you know what, Craig? After last January, when we went to that window, I said, you know what? I'm not going to judge this on money spent this window. I'm going to judge it speed of player come in, because we know Porro, Kulisev took its time and we waited the whole window and it dragged out. We brought in Werner and Dragusin. Now, whether you want to say they were successes, obviously Werner, maybe not. So, the club acted quickly. The club actually did something. They acted and got the players in quickly for the first time in January for ages. And you'd think all this window they've had since the window closed to now to get this, all the ducks in order and the players they want. They can see how injury ravaged we were. And nothing. And it looks like, again, that we're halfway through this window and where's the players coming in? Where I know we sometimes move under the radar, and that's what Lage does with the keeper, like we didn't even know the keeper was. And then he was here. But I just don't see how we're going to bring in the quality we need. And when you look at it, you can spend $250 million and not even touch FFP. And I'm not saying go spend $250 million in this window. That's not what I'm saying. The money is there. We all know it's there. We all know we can spend it. It's a case of, look at players like, people say January's a hard window to get players done. I can never pronounce his name, but the guy that's just left Napoli to go to PSG. Yes, they're big clubs, or PSG with the money. You pay the money, you get the player. You pay the money, and I'm not talking about going and spend 70, 80 million. I'm sure there's players on that list at Tottenham Hotspur that Ange wants or Lange has found that we can get. But here we are again, just dragging our heels. Where we need bodies. We're all saying that the players are knackered. We need to change things. Ange needs additions. Ange needs to change it around. He physically can't because of the numbers. Look at the bench yesterday, Craig. Look how many youngsters are on that bench. Sorry, they're not going to play, but they're there to make up the nut. He needs numbers.
Brian, last question for you. The Everton game on Sunday, and are you behind Ange Postecoglou at the moment? How long do you think he's got if we do not win the Everton game on Sunday?
I have to say, I can't back Ange anymore. I just can't. And the only another reason why I can't back him is because I just don't think that the kind of players he needs to play his system need to be at the elite level, like the elite of the elite to be able to play the demands of him. And we're not going to bring him in. We're not going to bring that kind of quality in. Someone said, who would I have in? The man I wanted before Ange. I love Thomas Frank. The Bournemouth manager, Riola. But Everton, Chris, I was trying to remember, and now you go everywhere, so you'll probably know. I think, I'm trying to remember, was the last win we had at Goodison with Pochettino, that 6-2 before Christmas?
You should have gone Christmas shopping, they were singing to the Everton fans.
But I think that was the last two, we were 2-0 up with Richarlison.
Yeah.
And we blew it. The season before that, we were 1-0 up.
1-1 draw.
And for some reason at Goodison Park, we just can't get the
Brian,
job done.
I can tell you now that is going to be a very, very tough game. David Moyes has just returned to Goodison Park. Of course, they lost 1-0 at home against Aston Villa last night, but I feel like the Tottenham game is going to be very, very different. I feel like their crowd are going to be really behind it. They're going to try and get behind the manager. They've had struggles in the last couple of years, nearly gone down themselves. You know, this is the last time that Spurs are going to go to Goodison Park before they move into their new ground. I feel like that is going to be a very, very tough game. And let's face it, Brian, what's an easy game these days in the Premier League?
Correct. Put it this way: if you could say to me right now, a draw at Goodison Park, right now I would break your arm off for it. Right now, because I just think when you look at it sometimes, and I've said it a few times, when the going gets tough, the weak go hiding with Spurs. When the crowd get on top of us, when we need to find answers and solutions, we just can't find them unless we're playing these teams like Man City and Villa that will play football and we can express ourselves. Everton will be up for the fight. Everton will go all in and battle, and I just don't think we can match them for battle. I would take a draw. This is how bad it is. I'll take a draw at Goodison.
Brian, thanks so much for joining us this evening, and we look forward to having you on the podcast again soon.
Whenever you're kind enough to invite me, I'll always be here. Craig, always a pleasure, buddy, and everyone in the chat. Have a great day. See you later.
Cheers, Brian.
Cheers, Brian.
See you later.
Get back to work, Brian. Get back to work. Skipping work to come and talk to us. Unreal. We're now going to go
Spurs
to Dillan.
does to you, doesn't it? You're risking the sack to talk about Tottenham.
Exactly. You're risking the sack to talk about someone possibly getting the sack. Dylan, how are you? And how are you feeling about Ange Postecoglou right now?
Frustrated, obviously, about the game yesterday, but about Ange, I think a lot of people week by week are slowly Ange out. I'm not Ange out yet. We've got a cup semi-final second leg. Get behind the manager. Just support the team.
Dylan, who I nearly called you Brian there. Sorry, I must be tired. It's one of them weeks. Again. Are you surprised we haven't done more transfer visits already? And who would you bring in? Would you have Rashford if he was? It looks like he's going to be going somewhere else. Would you have had Rashford, Moani? Who would you iron up in this window that you're wishing we was brought in?
I'm not surprised we've not made any moves because we are Tottenham Hotspur, and that's what we do best. Whatever we're supposed to not be doing. I would have liked Cowlin and Moani. I'm not seeing too much from him, but he looks like a player that we could use. But he's gone Juventus. So I think he's gone Juventus now, so obviously that's out the window. Yeah. Rashford, I wouldn't personally take, but we've not signed anyone. Obviously, Kinskiin. We just need someone. We need a winger who can take on his man. But the squad's so depleted, and you could tell how tired they are. How they're not really fighting anymore, and we can't grind out results. It's like the games we've won this season are when we smash teams apart. We've not won a game 2-1. This obviously Liverpool in the cup we beat him 1-0, but in the Premier League, we've not really seen like a grinding out of a result.
Dylan, when you think of all these managers we've had since, and including Pochettino leaving the club in 2019, Jose, Nuno, Conte, Postecoglou, and in between that, Stellini and Mason also in the dugout, what do you think is going to be different under Postecoglou now? Because we've already spoken a little bit about the transfer windows. You know, a lot of people are very frustrated about the league position. In terms of backing the manager, some people say just go out and spend the money. I don't feel like it's just about spending the money. I feel like it's about the right recruitment, because you can get very good players, at a very good price. It's not always about the money. We know that with Lo Celso and Tanguy Ndombele. But what do you think is going to be different this time around in order for it to work for Postecoglou? Because, of course, Football.London said today that the football club are right behind Ange Postecoglou. Do you think he's going to get the time? And what do you think is going to be different?
Well, I don't know. We say we're going to back him, but then are we really going to back him? Are we really going to give him the time? It's Tottenham Hotspur's the most confusing football club in the world. It's like you'll never know what we are going to do, what we aren't going to do. It's the reason I'm still backing Ange is we've got the semi-final coming up. If we get knocked out, I don't see us beating Everton on the weekend. And it's like, but I'd like to see Ange with our full squad. That's what I will say.
If you don't see us going to Liverpool and winning, and you don't see us going to Everton and winning, how are you so behind Ange when you don't see the results coming? Because the results in the very near future, Dylan, they've got to come, haven't they? They've got to come. You know, when you look at the league position, 8 points away from relegation. I know some fans have been joking. You know, we've even had a few on here in the last couple of weeks saying, you know, about relegation, and we're all laughing about it. And you think, hold on a minute, we're only 8 points away.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's football's a results game. You've said it how many times just today? And if we don't get the results, then what's the point? But again, against Everton, we're going to have a depleted squad again, and I don't want to judge the manager on what he doesn't have. That's what it is.
So obviously you're still behind Ange, Dylan. So I mean, at what point do you think you will break though?
I'm behind him for the time being, considering the circumstances around who's actually fit, who's not fit. Once we've got a fully fit team, give it a few games. If there's still no improvements, if we're still making the same sloppy mistakes, we're not fighting properly, then he's got to go.
Dylan, last question for you. Anthony Kinski, of course, joined a short while ago. His first 3 games, a semi-final against Liverpool, an FA Cup game against Tamworth away, which was difficult conditions, and then, you know, throw him in at the deep end, North London derby away at Arsenal. How do you think he's got on in these 3 games so far?
From what you can judge, I do like him. I saw people after the Liverpool game saying, "Oh, he's already better than Vicario." I wouldn't go that far. You've seen him play 3 times now. He did well under pressure against Liverpool. I know he's had some shaky moments, but I do like him. But it's a player. You need to see him more to see what he's really about.
Dylan, give me a score prediction for the Everton game.
2-0.
Okay. Well, thanks for chatting this evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Dylan. Speak to you soon. We're now going to go to Simon. Simon, how are you?
Good. How are you, Chris and Craig?
How you doing?
Great to have you on, Simon. Talk to me about your thoughts and feelings about the Arsenal game, because, of course, you know, being a Spurs fan, it's never easy to lose a game, let alone to them lot down the road, especially at their ground.
Well, you said it. You know, I hate losing. I don't ever want to lose. But it kind of goes to another level when it's them lot. So, I drank quite a bit of beer yesterday. Yeah, I mean, you know, what can we do now? I mean, like Ange said after the game, you know, they ask him like, how are we gonna get out of this? And you know, just like anything in life, you know, I really do believe that, yeah, you know, setbacks, that's just opportunity for growth. We're dealing with a whole lot of setbacks right now, but you know, it just put your head down, work harder and harder, and then you know, when we come out on the other side, you know, it's gonna be worth it. So that's probably the reason why I'm still backing Ange. Is, you know, kind of just learning about his you know, life story, you know, having a lot of doubters, you know, having to, you know, come from the other side of the world and then kind of make it. So yeah, you know, there's nobody that I want to see succeed more than he does. And I know it's kind of hard to find all the positive right now. I understand, you know, the frustration of all the frustrations coming from everybody, and yeah, results are not good, and it has to turn around. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's enough other people slacking us off right now, you know, all the pundits, all the other fans and things like that. And you know, I take a lot of pride supporting this club. And yeah, I mean, to see some of our fans kind of you know, kind of taking that route, it's pretty, it hurts me a lot, you know. I just hope that we start turning things around, you know, giving the fans something to feel good about. So then that way we can all get back on the same page, you know, supporting this team. And yeah, it's you know,
It's tough. It is tough supporting
it's
this club,
tough.
Simon, without a doubt. Heung-min Son I love Sonny. Chris loves Sonny. Most of the fan base loves Sonny. You can see he's really hurting. It's an all too common occurrence, isn't it, this season, where he's had to come out and almost apologise for the team's performance. He's had to carry the can and carry the weight on his shoulders because he's the captain of the club. Do you think Heung-min Son he'd never come out and say it, but do you think he feels that the club has done enough to support the squad? Do you think that Sonny's going to be sitting there thinking, we've lost Harry Kane, we've brought in some quality, definitely, but we need more? Do you think he's been here 10 years now? Players like this, we've said it. I'd hate for Heung-min Son to retire from this club and not win a trophy. We've seen Kane go, Lloris, Eric Dyer. I know he wasn't everybody's cup of tea, he wasn't mine, but you know, these players that come here, don't win a trophy, then go off somewhere else and win a trophy. How would you feel if you're Sonny?
Well, I mean, I don't think that guys can make it to that level without being ultra competitive. So I know, you know, obviously he would be the only one that would know it himself. But if I was in his shoes, no, I mean, I would be, I would be really disappointed that, but obviously, just kind of seeing the type of guys that he's been and how he's been kind of acting, I don't think he would ever come out and say that, hey, I've been let down by the club or anything like that. But I'm sure there's part of him that feels that way, and probably, now that he's coming down towards the end of his career and things like that, it's I just again, there's nobody that I want to see to do well at the club than people like Ange and Sonny. I just yeah. I mean, I hope that I know a question that you guys been asking the other guests is like, what does it take for things to start improving and to turn around? And I just feel like, and I'm hoping, praying that guys will get back being healthy, stay healthy, so then that we can get some chemistry back in the team. I mean, I feel like even though he's been here for almost 2 years, but he's never had like a full consistent squad going all like the whole time. There's always like guys in and out of the team for different reasons and stuff like that. And I mean, it's just when you play sport, it's a team game. So we may be able to get a good results here and there, and if we have some quality that will step up, this game here, this game there. But in order to get a bunch of go on a nice run, you need everybody to kind of be clicking on all cylinder. And I felt like we haven't really had that. And injury, I mean, people probably will say, well, I'm just making excuses and stuff like that. But they're not excuses, they're facts. We've just been we haven't had guys being healthy, and it's a rebuild. I live in Houston, and we have a baseball team here that I support, and it's kind of like a similar story. We came close, and then after that we just kept on like doing patchwork, like adding guys here, guys there, and stuff like that, but it's just never really like made it. So as painful as it was, we ended up just going through like a hard rebuild. And there was a stretch of 3 seasons in a row where we lost over 100 games every single season. And it was really, really tough. But because of that painful rebuild, we were able to build a team that we needed to win. And we ended up winning 2 World Series after that from that team. So, I know patient is probably not, really popular right now, but I just feel like, hey, um, I really think that Ange have a vision. He and the club seems to be behind him. Obviously, unless you're really inside and you know exactly what's going on, you never really know. So me as a fan, I can only go by what I see, and I feel like we're as painful as it is right now. we are moving in the right direction, and if we can get over the hump, then I think Ange said at one point it's going to be glorious, and I want to see the glory. I think it's going to be worth it. All the doubters, just to prove all the doubters, all the haters, just constantly slacking us. I just want to be able to show them one day. So.
Simon, before you go, tell us where you're based. Why do you support Spurs, and what's your favourite memory of supporting the football club so far? Because as you probably hear me say on this channel many, many times, 17 years without a trophy is far too long. So what good memories do you have of our football club supporting us so far?
Just a lot of good memories. So I started supporting Spurs when I saw that Dele Alli goal at Crystal Palace. So that was when I watched Premier League, but I didn't really have a team that I said was my team or anything like that. But since then, I just it just got deeper and deeper. Start consuming all type of yeah. I love Sonny. If I had to pick my favorite memory so far would be when he won the Golden Boot on that last game of the season against Norwich. So that's probably my favorite.
And Simon, just before you do go, score prediction for the Everton game, because I feel like it's going to be a tough game, but we've got to start winning, haven't we? We've got to start getting points.
Hey Chris, I'm going to quote you now. I have not a clue. It's it's always a toss up with us, right? I mean, we can go out there, smash them 5-0, or we can, lose, 1-0. So, but either way, I'll have my shirt on, and I'm gonna support my team, and I'm in that Ricky Norwood camp, so tell him I said hello.
We certainly will. We certainly will. He'll enjoy the good feedback. Simon, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and thank you so much for joining us on a couple of the previous shows. You've been great. So look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks for having me. You guys have a great one.
Cheers. Thank you.
Take care. Cheers.
We're now going to go to Alex. Alex, good evening. How are you?
Hi guys, how are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us. Your thoughts on the Arsenal game last night?
My thoughts on the Arsenal game last night. It's a tough one. I would say I thought we defended well in parts. We did well to get the goal. I thought it was a decent goal, although it was deflected. But you could kind of see from minute one that things weren't perfect, and I don't know. I thought maybe if we could get to half time at 1-0 and kind of assess from there, and then see what happened in the second half. But as soon as Arsenal get that corner, I just think, well, our record defending set pieces is terrible, and they're really good at obviously scoring from them. So I thought, well, yeah, it's probably going to be that outcome. But the refereeing decision was poor to give them the corner in the first place, because that was came back off cross-eyed. But it's one of them. It's silver the green. You've got to take it. And then I thought first half was really poor, actually, the performance. What some of the players like Bissouma and players like that were really poor. But in the second half, I thought it picked up a bit, but still not good enough, really. We didn't create enough. I thought Solanke looked really tired. He's been fantastic this season. He's been one of our better players, but I think it's clear that we need to get some help for him, which is why I thought Cowlin might have been a decent signing, but obviously we couldn't get that over the line. So I really do think that Howard is needed in this window, as well as a defender, whether that be a left back or a centre back. But yeah, and I think as soon as it goes to 2-1, Arsenal can kind of just play keep ball and just manage the game with likes of Odegaard and bringing Marino on and things like that. And we just don't really have them options at the moment. Taking Bissouma and Sarah at half time and replacing them with Madison and who came on. So the midfield was Bergwijn, Madison and Kulusevski in the second half. The midfield three, which I thought was very, very attacking. Obviously going for it in the second half, but I also feel like that leaves you exposed. So I don't know. And we had a chance towards the end with Porro, which hit the post, but we didn't really. I never really thought we were going to get back into the game at all. I thought we were quite fortunate to go 1-0 up, but obviously we take that. And yeah, I think we've just got to move on. Hopefully try and get some players back. Maybe Romero's back for the next game, I don't know. But yeah, we'll see from there.
Do you know, that's a really good point, Alex. And Craig, probably we didn't discuss this enough on the podcast last night. In that second half, although we were better in the second half, did you ever think that we were going to actually score? Because we didn't really look very clinical in that second half. Like we were actually, creating chances, whereas Arsenal were going up the other end of the pitch, and every single time they were in that final third. And bearing in mind, so many people have said about, if they actually had a striker, they would score more goals. But they did look like they were going to score on every single occasion.
Yeah, absolutely. But we just didn't look like. I've felt that a few times in games this season that we haven't looked like we were gonna get anything, which is unusual considering the amount of goals we've scored. But last night, just wasn't feeling it. And I'm just kind of fed up with certain players just underperforming each week. Alex, who do you think? Who do you feel has not played to their potential at Tottenham? And of the players, who do you think Ange Postecoglou has improved since he's been at the club?
When you say not playing to their potential, do you just mean this season in particular?
Yeah,
Or perhaps the players you expect a little bit more from. Who needs to really step it up?
Okay, yeah. So in terms of that, I would say there's a few. I'd say Bissouma's been really poor this season, I thought. It didn't start well in pre-season when obviously the video came out of him doing what he did, and and I think he's been liable a few times in his Tottenham career to dive and get sent off. I think he's made a few rash decisions, you see, like giving penalties away. That one at Chelsea kind of springs to mind for me. And yeah, I just think he's been really poor. And I know obviously there's been a lot of clamour from fans to actually get a proper number 6 in, and I think that's something that the club needs to address. Getting a proper number 6 in, because you look at a few top teams now, and they've got you look at Rodri at City, you look at Rice at Arsenal, and you look at Agate at United. A lot of teams have got proper number 6s in. I just don't feel we've got that. So I think Bassoon was definitely one. In terms of other players that have been poor, I know Maddison's numbers have been decent this season, but I feel like in games he just goes missing a lot of the time completely. To say he's supposed to be our main creative hub in the team and one of the guys' captains, I do feel like to say the senior player that he just goes missing quite a lot. I felt that again on last night. I thought when he came on, he had a real chance to kind of dictate the game and really stamp his authority and show Postecoglou why he should be in the team regularly. But I just didn't feel he took that chance at all. So I'm not saying he's been really poor this season, Maddison, but I just feel like he could definitely give more. And then, unfortunately, I know it's going to be unpopular with a lot of Tottenham fans, but I think Son as well. Just this season, I don't know what it is, whether he's tired, whether he's just obviously fatigued from playing a lot of football. I don't know, because we don't really have another player in that position as good as him to compete with him. So it ends up that he's having to play a lot of the games. And I don't know, he's been okay in patches. I feel now that, a couple of seasons ago, he had a really bad season. I know he had that injury and he had, surgery and things, and he broke his nose and stuff like that. So, and then he came back last season and you thought, oh yeah, this is his song we all know. I think he got 18 goals and 10 assists in the league, and you're thinking, good return. And this season again, he's just gone back to what it was before. So I'm not sure. I think I'd definitely say Son is another one of those. But obviously, we all love Sonny. I think previous people who've been on this show tonight have always have all said that we all love Sonny, and obviously he's the captain, and we all think he should. We'd be delighted for him if he won a trophy. But I think this season he's been quite poor, and I think that's where another forward comes in. If he can bring another forward in and maybe provide that competition for him on the left or the right, maybe his performances will increase. Excuse me. And then to Craig, the point about, do you say it was players that have been impressed with? Is that what they?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think it was who needs to step up and who's Ange improved. But obviously, according to Daniel Levy, who's in the chat tonight, thank you, Daniel, for your comments. Apparently, none of them have improved. So that's harsh words from our chairman there, Daniel. I think that's a bit out of order, to be honest. But
hold on, let me just say that there are other people called Daniel Levy. So we know that it's not the actual Daniel Levy. I better just say that.
Oh, is it not?
Yeah.
Oh God, how gullible am I?
Alex, are you
Yes.
still behind? Are you still behind Ange Postecoglou and the Everton game? Every single game in the Premier League is a huge game, but when you've had one win in 9 Premier League games, and that was a 5-0 win at Southampton, and let's face it, Southampton are a very, very poor side, and if that is our only win in the last 9 games, this next game against Everton is huge, isn't it? We've got to pick up points, absolute maximum points, 3 points.
Yeah. I agree with that, Chris. Sorry, just to go back to Craig's point quickly, in terms of players that have been improved in Postecoglou, I think just quick shout out, to Gray Bergmal this season. I think Gray, to say he's so young and he's not a midfielder, he's not really a right back either. He's not a centre back. Sorry, he's a midfielder. He's not a right back either, particularly. I think to say that he's been thrust into so many big games at centre back, I think he's been fantastic. Real composure, top signing for us, and Bergmal as well. To say that a lot of fans were kind of reserved about him for the first 6 months, I think he's really shown in these last couple of months how good of a player he is for his age. To go back to your point, Chris, sorry to go off there, but I am still behind Ange. I'd say obviously patience is wearing a little bit thin, but I would say there's been a couple of circumstances. Obviously, the injuries have not helped Ange at all, and I think not being backed properly by Levy in the summer to get players in that left back position. We've seen what's happened with the Doggy, and we've seen what's happened with Gundogan and Romero, and then obviously the forward line has been depleted as well. I think it's not helped him at all to not be back as well as he would have liked. Not saying he hasn't been backed, probably because he has. Solanke and players like that have been brought in, but. Yeah, I think the Everton game's a massive game for us. I wouldn't be kind of pinning our hopes for our season on that game, but I think it is important that we pick up 3 points in that game. I'd say I'd give him to the end of the season. I would say I don't think there's any point sacking him now because I don't think there's anybody available that's better than him at the moment. I would say because we're still in the Europa League, we're still in the League Cup and the FA Cup, I'd give him to the end of the season, see if we can maybe pick up a trophy. I know it's always a long shot, but it may happen. I would say I'll reassess at the end of the season. But for now, I'm fully engine, and hopefully we can get a couple of players in the windows to help him.
Alex, last question for you. Just a quick yes or no. Will Spurs win a trophy this season? And give me a league position where you think Spurs will finish.
Will Spurs win a trophy this season? Yes. And will league position? Or I think if we get some players back, and we maybe get a couple of signings in, I'll say optimistic. I'll say 8th or 9th.
What trophy do you think then?
I think Europa League. I think that's got to be our main one. I know United are in some decent form at the moment, and but I think we're one of the better teams in that competition. I think we really should be putting our eggs in that basket. But obviously we've got the semi-final as well. Who knows? And the FA Cup. It's all to play for. But I think the league season's pretty much over. But we've still got a lot of things to play for. So. And
Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Great to talk to you, and we'll hopefully talk to you again soon.
Yeah, cheers, Chris. Cheers, Craig. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Bye.
I tell you, I do love these shows. So many different opinions. Let's get another one. Let's go to Stephen. First time on the channel. Stephen, how are you? Good evening.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Craig. Pleasure to be on the show. I love your show. I watch your channel. You're the channel that I watch the most. It's therapy. Excuse the dark glasses in the app. I've just got out of bed and I feel like death. Cheers.
Well, it has been it's like that, is it?
That's what Spurs drives you to, isn't it?
From the 8 o'clock this morning, I've been a bit of a rant about Ange. And look, I would love it would be more pleasure than to Ange make me look a total idiot, which I'm probably looking like now, and prove me wrong. But I fear we're going to get relegated if he stays in charge. May the 7th, 1977, I remember when we went down, it was 5-0 Man City. They effectively relegated us, and it was confirmed a week or so later. We finished bottom of the league. And everyone said, Spurs ain't going to go down. We could go down. I love Ange. He's a lovely guy, but I fear his style of football is causing all of these injuries, these hamstring injuries, as he had the same problem with Celtic. And I don't think he can change. And if I was Daniel Levy, and I agree with Brian Daigle that Daniel Levy's underinvested in the team. What turned up for me was Man United got Bruno Fernandes, we got Gedson. probably the worst player I've ever seen at Tottenham. So I'm praying that Ange's going to prove me wrong, that on February the 6th he's going to get through against Liverpool. And if that doesn't happen, then when we play Villa, which I think hasn't been confirmed the date, it might be the Sunday or the Monday. But if we got knocked out by Villa, so then where we have it, it's the Europa League. Can we get in the top 8? That's not a given. Then it's February the 20th is the second leg of the playoff. Now, I reckon if we go out of the Europa League or even before then, he could be gone. And I would love him to prove me wrong. But I'm scared. I think we'll get beat at Everton on Sunday. I hope I'm wrong. And, I can't even see us beating Leicester at home at the moment. I'm scared. I'm scared we're going to go down. And if I was Daniel Levy, as all the mistakes he's made on the pitch, off the pitch, he's done a good job with the staging, obviously. But he needs... I would personally ring... I'd have him on standby, but I'd want the Bournemouth manager at Tottenham, because I think he is just what he is doing at Bournemouth is unbelievable. And but I would love Ange to prove me wrong. I would love him to go to Everton. I remember being at Goodison Park in the 70s. I've been a Spurs fan since the 70-71 season. I've seen the good times and the awful times. And this is a bad time for us at the moment. And I fear that, like I said, I was at Goodison Park in the 70s when Pat Jennings, they threw a bottle at him. But I think we're going to get beat at Everton. I think we're going to lose at Everton on Sunday. I hope I'm wrong. And I'm really fearing for the club. I'm scared we're going to get relegated. People might laugh at me, oh, you're going to get relegated. But honestly, have you seen it? We're 8 points, 9 points effectively because of that goal difference. But we're 9 points off the relegation zone. West Ham are above us. Oh, God. I'm scared, Craig. I'm so scared. We're going to go down. I'm really fearing. And I've seen it before. I saw us go down in 77. And I'm fear we're going to get relegated. I know it might sound mad, and maybe I'm just depressed. I'm still recovering from last night.
Steve, if he loses, oh God, if he loses Sunday, if we lose Sunday, God forbid, do you think he's? I thought I'm going to have to go and get a bottle of wine. Do you think his position becomes untenable then? Do you think he could go as early as Monday?
I don't think Daniel Levy's going to sack him until that possible playoff game in the Europa League, because United played Rangers in the Europa League, and that suits us in a way because there's got to be a result. So as long as we win our game, but I could see us losing our away at the away leg. When we go away, well, Chris, you'll be there. You're at every game, but I could see us losing the away leg. I could see. I'm scared. Look, Welcome to My Nightmare, the Alice Cooper album. Tottenham are in a nightmare now. I'm scared to death. We are going to go down. Honest, I'm scared. Maybe I've lost the plot. Maybe I'm just years of being a Spurs fan. I'm suffering from mental illness. I'm a Tottenham fan. I'm not going to a therapy group. I'm in therapy now with you guys. I'm scared. I'm so scared we're going to go down. Are you guys scared? Do you think we're safe? I don't think we're safe at all.
I'm all right, actually. I'm quite calm about that. But yeah,
I feel I'm all right at the moment, Stephen. Perhaps I need a bottle of wine like you, but to try and get me through all this. Stephen, how are you feeling ahead of this Everton game, and what would you change in terms of the starting 11 that started against Arsenal last night? What would you change? Because it's fair to say, all joking aside, it is fair to say we need some points on the board and fast, because we are only 8 points away. And I'm not going to start you off again by talking about the relegation zone, but it's serious stuff. Spurs fans are not used to sitting in 13th spot. Even when Ange Postecoglou come in, I know he walked into an absolute mess, but we weren't even 13th when he walked in.
See, with me with Ange, right, Chris, fantastic start last season, but this isn't just this season. If it was just this season, I wouldn't be as scared. But the end of, after we beat Villa 4-0 away, then we lost to Fulham, didn't we? After that, and we went on a terrible run. It's the end of last season as well that worries me. It's this. I think on his day, he can be the best manager in the world. When I'm 4-0 at City, who would have seen after that 4-0 win at City that what would have happened since? I mean, the 6-3 against Liverpool was pathetic. The defeat at home to Chelsea was pathetic. And I don't blame him. I'm not putting all the blame on him. You've got to blame Levy for something. And I also think some of the players should look at what they're getting in their pay packets and be a bit ashamed of themselves sometimes. But I think he's got to start with James Maddison. I don't know what it is with him and Maddison, but James Maddison, to me, has got to start. And Kulusevski. Oh, because you can't play them both probably in midfield, really. I'd have Kulusevski on the wing. I'd have Son on the other wing. Obviously, Solanke's got to play. I'd have Maddison in the midfield with either side. Basuma's really disappointed me. I definitely play Bergvall. I think Bergvall's been fantastic. I would like to see, it's not possible at the moment, but at one point I want to see Archie Gray in midfield. So Archie Gray, what a credit. He has been after Kulusevski. I think Archie Gray has been our best player of the season, apart from Kulu, because he's played out of position. He's played left back, centre half. I mean, right back. He's an amazing player. Leeds United, they must be sick. They lost a player of his quality, and I think Archie Gray is a future Tottenham captain. So, who's going to be back? I mean, Richarlison, I'm glad he's on the bench, because I thought when Richie come on last night, he showed he's got that dog about him. He can, and of course he'll respect Everton, but he got a couple of goals at Everton last time, didn't he? So, but I hope I'm wrong, but I fear a defeat at Everton. David Moyes is a bloody good manager. I bet you West Ham, which they never got rid of. I think they got a good manager now, but I don't think he's as good as Moyes. I think that people forget what he's done in his career. He had a tough.
Is he still with us? Steve, are you still with us?
Job, even. And I'm talking about.
Steve, can you still hear me? I think we've lost him.
Steve? I think that lager's kicked in.
Craig, what did you make of Steve's comments there? Worried about getting relegated.
It's dark
it's dark in here.
I tell you, like I say, we have all sorts of characters on here.
What a great guest we got to get Steve.
Do you know what? It's such a shame that he went, because I wanted to ask him the most important question: is where's Sharon, and how many times a day does he get called Aussie? And he's gone. We hopefully get Stephen back at some point. Craig, let's now go to our next guest. We're going to go to Lewis. Lewis, how are you? How can you follow that?
Very well. I don't know how I can pull up with that. I'm sorry, I was reading the comments and I was just in bits. What a great guest. What a character. Oh, you've got to get him back, Chris.
Absolutely. I think he's actually back. Stephen, we'll get you back shortly. Lewis, in all seriousness, how are you feeling about that Arsenal defeat? Because, of course, none of us like losing games, particularly to our North London rivals.
Do I have to relive it, Chris? It was horrendous, wasn't it? I mean, you were there, so it was worse for you. A lot worse for you. Just annoying, frustrating. Sorry to sound like you, Craig, but really frustrating that we just don't turn up these grounds ever. Under different managers, different players. It's the same result every time, isn't it? And it's just frustrating every time.
Yeah. You're right. That's my favourite word, Lewis. You're obviously a fan of the podcast. The amount of times I've said that, but do you know what? I've supported Spurs for many years, decades, in fact, and I've said on here before. I remember the 80s when we were successful in the cups, and the 90s we were pretty horrific, but we won 2 cups in the 90s. And I was trying to think. I was asking myself the other day, would I take finishing 16th? With a cup? Would you take finishing 16th and win a cup?
Well, I think the thing we got touched on last night on your, I can't remember who mentioned it, saying that all the times that we've won a cup, we've been rubbish in the league. Yeah, I think it was you who mentioned it. We've been rubbish. So maybe we've reverted back to sort. Maybe we've been rubbish in the league and we're going to win a cup. I mean, it kind
Would
of
you
takes us
take
out the
that
crack.
though?
But we're so desperate to win something, aren't we? So yes and no. You know, I want to see progress, but at the same time, I want to see us win something. But does it just paper over the cracks that we're not particularly that good or consistent? You know, I mean, the thing I look at, everyone talks about Archie Gray, and I think, well, can you imagine if we had Romero, Mickey van der Ven, and Archie Gray could actually play in midfield where he's supposed to play? What a huge difference that would make, because I think that would be a huge boost to the team. But we haven't got that luxury at the moment, have we? We need players. We desperately need them. Desperately.
Lewis, let's take a comment here from Roy. Thanks so much for your comment, Roy, and we'll have to get you back on the channel very soon. Fed up at writing disappointing after games. It sounds like Craig sound frustrating all the time. I know we always use these words, frustrating, disappointing. We were toothless in parts of the game, and it's time the board actually stepped up and spend on quality. That's something I wanted to talk about heavily tonight, Lewis, about the transfer window, because you know, like I said to Brian, it's not all about just spending money. You know, we've spent big money before on players. You know, you could probably put Richarlison in there. Big money on a player. We've had very little off him. You know, I know there are a lot of Richarlison fans, but, you know, factually, we haven't had a lot from him with the amount of money that we've spent. And as I keep saying on this channel, since I've left, Lo Celso and Ndombele, a lot of money on these players, and we've had very, very little from them. What do you expect in this transfer window? What does Ange need? Because how many times does Ange need to come out and say it? We need help. You know, the amount of injuries that he's had. I know a lot of people see the bigger picture and they say, well, when we get all our players back, we should be fine. And when we get all our players back, we'll start being entertained again and, you know, playing Ange ball, and we're all going to be having smiles on our faces. We're going to climb up a Premier League table, might win a trophy, blah, 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 blah. At the moment, 8 points away from the relegation zone. You know, let's stick to the facts here. He needs players, and he needs players that are going to not only come in immediately, but are going to make that real impact. Not be a sub, not be a fringe player, not being able to impress, or not being a player for the future. Literally a player to walk in the first 11 and say, here I am, and I'm going to deliver and be a big impact. Is that going to happen, in your opinion?
I'm worried that it's not. I mean, you look at when we bought Kulu and Bentancur in. You know, we brought them both in, and they made an instant impact. It was what we needed, and we need something like that again. You know, you look back to Rafael van der Vaart. Absolutely loved that guy. He made a huge impact instantly to the club. And I think Brian was talking about the other day, saying he hadn't been excited about a signing since Klinsmann. And I added a comment saying, well, in my opinion, Rafael van der Vaart, I was excited about. And he made an instant impact. And we need something like that real star quality. That, I mean, everyone talks about the games that we had a full strength squad. Well, let's not forget, well, what did our bench look like when we had that full strength squad? We still had youngsters on it. So, you know, even if they're all fit, the squad's still not got the right depth yet, in my opinion. You know, we do need quality. And I'm with you with that, Chris. 100%. That we need someone now that's going to make an impact. Not someone that you think, oh, we'll be all right in 5-6 years' time. That's not good enough. We are real in trouble at the moment, and we need something to dig us out of it.
Sorry, I will get Craig to get a word in a second, but I just wanted to ask you this question because I asked this a question a lot to a lot of the guests. Who was the last signing? You mentioned Rafa van der Vaart there. Who was the last signing that you really got excited about? And who would you say was the last world-class signing? Because I always go back to Jurgen Klinsmann, 94. When we signed him, that was like a real wow moment because, you know, just played in the World Cup. Excellent footballer. You knew exactly what you're going to get. And that player came into the Premier League, hit the ground running immediately. You know, in that first game, Sheffield Wednesday, of course, scoring on his home debut, of course, getting a couple of goals against Everton. Went on and on. Superb partnership with Teddy Sheringham, of course. But when was the last time you got really, really excited thinking, oh, my God, Spurs have just signed? Who is it?
Klinsmann, same as you. I'm from the same era, Chris. Klinsmann, that was it. I was like, wow, we've got this player that any club would have been impressed with. And we haven't signed anyone like that. That no other clubs you think, well, Man United would like him or Liverpool would like him. There's no, you know, players have proved, you know, we've signed players that have gone under the radar a little bit, but not like a wowie, like everyone else is going, wow, this club's making a statement here, like a statement signing saying, we mean business. We don't do it. And we've got the money. And I'm not buying all this, we haven't got any money, you know, we're skin, all this, we're fed all this crap as fans. And you go to the game, do you see how much money is spent at that stadium?
Yeah.
Formula One tracks, concerts. Well, where's the investment in the team? Like I said, I've got no problem with it doing that, but we don't see the investment. We don't see it. And it's almost like we act like a mid-table team and they wonder why this is happening. It's just, well, the evidence is there. You know, we all see it, but why doesn't the board see it? That's what's really annoying, really annoying.
Lewis, what's got to happen to change that then? Do you think the board needs to go you and Enoch Levy out sort of person, or do you just want them to be better? Because I think we've seen over many years, it hasn't changed much really, has it?
No, not at all. I mean, I think if you was in charge of a company, and I think I've said this before on big shout to Lee the Dorset Spur, I think I've said this on his channel. If you was in charge of a company and you were constantly failing as a company, yes, they're making money, but you know, we're their clients, you know, we're their customers. They're not making their customers happy, are they? So it starts at the top. If you know, if they're not performing and making their customers happy, then something's got to change at the top. And I don't know how that works. I don't know how you get rid of a chairman, but it's just not working. It's not working. That's the only constant that we've had for all these years. You know, we talk about the lack of trophies. Well, what's the one constant thing? What? World-class managers, change of players. Nothing's changed, but the one thing that's been constant is the board. And it lies at the top.
I feel like, Lewis, we can't keep going around in circles like we have done, and we can't keep sacking managers 18 months in. I feel like the manager at the moment either needs to be backed, or you start, whoever you're going to start a project with, you've got to back them or do things differently, like, you know, to what we've done before, because we are literally going around in circles. You know, all those managers that I reeled off earlier, you know, since 2019, 7 different managers in the dugout. It's crazy. Big up to Lee the Dorset Spur, by the way. About a week before it happened, Lee was on this channel and I said, what do you think would be a good move for Alfie Dorrington? And he turned around and said, I think you should go to Scotland, somewhere like Aberdeen. And of course, that's where he ended up going, to Aberdeen. So big up to him.
No.
Lewis, it's funny because one of the comments in the comments section here, he said, we've had Ozzy Osbourne on, and now we've got Chris Martin on from Coldplay. Do you do any singing?
No, I'm a DJ. I'm not a singer, but I do a bit of karaoke. I can knock out a few Coldplay songs if they like, but yeah, it'll cost them.
Yeah, Lewis, give us the score prediction for the Everton game,
don't we?
No. Get all the stars. You got to get that guy back on. Score prediction. All right, I'm thinking that. Well, they've got to bounce back from that. They have to. They have to. So I'm thinking it's going to be 2-0 Spurs. We've got to bounce back. There's just no way. I mean, I don't know about you, Chris. I mean, you was there. You had to listen to all the chants and everything like that. I was watching it at home, and as soon as the North London Forever come on at the end of the game, I nearly threw the remote through the TV because I'm just sick of it.
Do you know what really wound me up yesterday? And I really had to just shut my mouth. Is walking from the Emirates to the car, which was about 1.5 miles away. And the chance then of walking through all of the Arsenal fans, I tell you, that was hard. That is hard to take. And it is very hard to not say something back. And of course, you don't need to wear any colours. You don't need to be in red or you don't need to be in blue for people to know whether you're an Arsenal fan or a Spurs fan, because when you've won the North London derby, you are either looking really, really happy or you are looking very, very miserable. And of course, I was very, very miserable. I think everyone knew that I was a Spurs fan walking through that crowd because I was miserable as hell. So it was very, very hard to do that. Lewis, you're always such a great guest. We'll look forward to having you on again very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Chris. Have a good one.
Cheers. Speak to you soon.
See you later.
We're now going to go to G in Brazil. G, how are you? G, we'll come back to you, yeah?
No,
we've got him now.
Mute off. There you go.
How are you?
Hello, Chris. Hello, Craig. Thank you for the
Hello,
therapy
Gene.
session today already. All right, Craig.
What was that? You had to mute the sound of the rainforest in the background. You're going to make us feel even
Yeah,
worse
no, I had,
now.
I had an alarm
Yeah.
go off at the same time, so I wanted to mute that first before I unmuted myself. Thank you, Craig. Yeah.
Gee, so it's always great to speak to you and great to see your scenery behind, because it's like being on holiday because you've got the beach right behind you. But of course, who was on the beach for you yesterday in this Tottenham team? Because of course we didn't get the result at the Emirates. Frustrating again. This Everton game on Sunday is a must-win. But how are you feeling about that Arsenal match?
I'm still licking the wounds, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because it's just the emotion part of it. That's the thing that gets you the most, isn't it? You're a Spurs supporter, you hate them, and we lose against them. It doesn't matter how or whatever the circumstance or whatever. It's always going to hurt, And I really felt for you when you told me, when you said that about walking through there. I know what you mean, mate. That's a horrible experience. It's one that I don't miss about going to Spurs. I do miss going there. I've got to be honest, but I kind of give it up when we lost our terraces. That's when I stopped really going, and I nipped off abroad anyway. So, so I know what it's like to have that proper full in the face spit of the other guy's mouth as he's telling you what he thinks of you or laughing at you and whatever. So I know that must have been horrible yesterday, and I really feel for you, mate. Feel for the pair of you. So there you go. But it's not easy. It's horrible, isn't it? It's horrible to lose to them. And I think when you do something like that, what it does is as well, it antagonizes those that even were kind of, we're all, the way I put it is like this: you're always going to hear from the baby throwing at the dummy out of the pram more than anybody else, right? And that's going to happen more, especially like this, results, the way it's gone. But there's a bigger picture here, and we've got to stay focused to it. I'm not one of those to lose my cool. Not normally, all right. When I do, it's big time. But normally, I try and look at the picture and study the whole thing, And there's a lot here going on. I've heard some people talking on here tonight, and I get it. But in the main, I think most people understand the process here. All the people that I've seen on your programs throughout the time you've been on, not just this time, but from before and everything. I've never seen these kind of like, I don't know who they are. Some of them, I'm sure they're gooners anyway, but they're just like, Ange out. It's the first thing they go for because they don't know anything else. They can't figure anything else out in the brain. Their brain's not thinking about anything. They're losing their cool. Now, you can't lose the cool, because we're in a process. Unless we want to go back to that whirlwind of Levy out, manager out, 4 months without a manager, Mason to the rescue, bang, bang. And then somehow we find it through the mist a manager that actually wants to come to us. You know what I mean? It makes me laugh. The callers before, one of them was saying about we need a signing that is wanted by Liverpool and that's it. Do you think they're going to come to this club? Really? Is anybody can? And that includes managers. We've already had the likes of Jose and Conte who bored us all to tears and played ridiculously horrible football. And what did we get out of it? Just sad days, At least now we're getting a bit more. It's not great, you know what I mean? But at least we're getting something here. And they're not excuses. They're reality. He hasn't got the team. He never had it when we had our first 11. He never had it. Ange never had it. That's the thing he was meaning to change. And then you swipe half of those out of it. Play a game every 3.6 days, which we're not going to end until February. I said that before, a couple of shows ago. What do you think about the next games and so on? And I said the same thing. I said, well, we're just going to come back to this situation because in 3 days after a game, the players are not going to get rested. Things ain't going to get better, are they? We're just going to go out there again. Johnson's knackered, Kulu's knackered, Son is knackered. They're all knackered. The only ones who aren't knackered are the kids who've come in that haven't played a full season. And this is why I've got a lot of hope, because as before, we had Conte and all that, just trashed the club. They hated us, you know what I mean? They never wanted to be with us. Jose never wanted to be with us. They're Chelsea. Why the hell did they even come here in the first place? I do not know. They trashed us horribly afterwards as well, and during their tenure.
But they were winners. They were winners, G. And I feel heavily, and I know a lot of people probably won't like me saying this, but Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte I actually felt like they had a bit of a rough time at Spurs, because they came in. They are winners. They are born winners. They have gone and won everywhere that they have gone, and I genuinely believe that they wanted to change that. They wanted to put a trophy in the cabinet, and they wanted the club to show real ambition in transfer windows, and they wanted the absolute best. I agree with you on the fact that, and this is why I have hope for Ange Postecoglou, and this is why I've never been Ange out, is the fact that he really wants this to work. And you can tell, even in the interview yesterday against Arsenal, he is not looking deflated, or he is not looking like, I don't know what the hell to do next. He is looking determined. Exactly right. He's looking determined and thinking, right, okay, I need to turn this around. And, let's face it, when the job came up, not a lot of people wanted the job. He really wants this job. He really wants it to work. And I love the attitude from a manager. And I agree with you. I think it's very easy for some people just to go, oh, get rid, let's start again. And people will never tell you then, what should we do next? And when you look at all the stats of changing the managers again and again and again, I feel like things just need to change. And that's why I live in hope. Although some people will call me deluded, I just live in hope that the board do things differently, because it has to be different. It has to be different when you have hit that major reset button at the football club.
I totally agree with that. You're absolutely right. I think they've got an agenda as well, a lot of those guys, is that they go through this Ange out in order to get to Levy, because they've always wanted him out. Me included, I don't want him out of the club. I just wanted him out the football. He's not a football man. He knows nothing. He's never had the experience. He's never played football. He's never managed football. He's never been in the football scene. He's just a very wealthy guy with a lot of money who happens to go in there with his mate who's got even more money, and he takes over the clubs. And he's done very well business-wise for the club and everything. We all know that, But at the end of the day, he's played with the pieces too much. For him, it's a game. It's a game. It's a very expensive game for most of us. We wouldn't be able to afford it, obviously. But for him, it's very easy. He's got all the power and the wealth and everything, and he's there. He goes to Tottenham. He's a Spurs supporter all his life. And he's like, I'm going to tinkle with this and do what I like. You don't like it? I don't care. Boom, 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 boom. And he's off again, This is what we're up against. So you're never going to get Levy out going through Ange out. All you're going to get is Ange out, Levy going, well, whew, I got out of that one, didn't I? Now they're all going to be quiet for a little while. I skint around trying to find somebody else. That's how it's going to go. We know the process. We know what's going to happen. Now, what we should be doing is focusing on, well, what can we see here with Ange? Because I'm the same. I give everybody a chance. I gave Conte a chance, and even Jose as well, even though they're Chelsea and I hate them for it, didn't want them here, really, but I gave them a chance. There's a lot of people who wanted Ange out even before he stepped through the door for his first day. And they're now piping up the most because they feel, I'm going to get what I wanted now, and now I feel bad if it doesn't work. They want us to die down and not succeed. I'm sure of it. And a lot of those are gooners out there or whatever, But I've noticed on this show, most people, they've said, look, we know the process, we know all the reasons why we're not getting there right now. We need to give him time. And this is what I'm saying. And where's evidence? Not the table where we are. And you can't give that as a stat. I know it's nasty, it's horrible to be where we are, but we're in the cups and whatever. But even so, you can't give that you can't look at that as the actual bias. So you've got to look at what's going on around it. He's bought in Gray. He bought in Gray. That's Ange Postecoglou's buy there. He bought in Solanke. We didn't have a striker for a season. He bought in, he's bought in all these. He's bought in every single player so far that he's bought in. I've got to say, it's been pretty damn good. And they're the ones that. The people who are saying Ange out, he doesn't know what he's doing, they're also saying, yeah, but we got great players in the kids. Well, who do you think put them there in the first place? Who do you think's training them to be in those places? Who do you think's put Spence on there? And don't say that Spence wasn't in Ange's mind. Ange put Spence in that. They wanted to get rid of him back out on loan again. Ange brought him through. Ange says, no, I'm going to sit with him. He's got problems, but I'm going to sit with him. And he did. And now he's put him out in a position that's not even his position. And he's running ragged over this, put Salah in his pocket twice. Absolutely incredible. God knows what he would have done to Saka as well. Do you know what I mean? We're disjointed. We don't have the players, and the players that we do have are disjointed because we don't have the players, and they're running ragged. They're knackered. When you get this, you've got a total imbalance of the whole team. Our midfield is, when's Bentancur going to be in? One match here, then he gets injured, or not even injured. It's like a ban or whatever. And that was another thing as well. Something else they focus on. They're going about injuries and stuff. Our two centre-backs, before they came to this club, they had those same injuries. Huh? When Van der Ven, when Mickey was out in, sorry, alarm's going again. Oh, it goes off. He got the same. It was exactly the same injury. Do you know what I mean? I know Ange's admitted this former playing, but when you have the right team and you can rest those players and then bring in other fresh legs in those positions, that's when it's all going to go. I want to be there when Ange does it because he's showing me that he can do it. And also he takes the brunt of everything. My fault. It's not his fault. It's not always his fault, but he'll take it. He'll take it on the chin. He's that kind of bloke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want him. I don't want another Conte who, like, at the first sign of it, then just gets up on his aisles and then loses his rag and then blames everybody else but himself. Do you know what I mean? Ange's way above all that, believe me.
Gio, just want to bring Craig in here. There's a comment here from Ryan. Ryan, thanks so much for your comment. Offensively inconsistent. Solanke is being starved. Johnson is lazy and Son is off. Defensively, positive signs. Gray, Bergvall, Spence, Kinski showing promise, but Andrew's tactical decisions seem narrow-minded. Craig, there's a lot to this comment. Let's break it down. Offensively inconsistent. Solanke is being starved. I think we've spoken a lot about this on the podcast that he needs a lot more delivery because when you've got a player like Solanke, you know, you would have hoped that, you know, he was going to be that player to score a lot of tap-ins, you know, particularly with the way that we should cross the ball. And we spoke a little bit about this about Brennan Johnson, you know, crossing the ball last night. Johnson and Son. Actually, do you want to take this and break it down into these parts?
Yeah. Look, you're right. We have discussed about Solanke. I've always said he should be looking to get at least 20 goals this season. He may still do. I don't know. He works incredibly hard off the ball, but I genuinely thought he'd have 15, 16 by now, the amount of chances we should be creating for him. But Ange has said many times that we, you know, our post-match interview, when we lose a game, we'll turn around and say, we didn't play our football, or words to that effect. And that's happened far too many times this season. But for me, it goes back to what I've said before. The fringe players, or not the first choice players, if you like, are coming in, and a lot of them just haven't been good enough and strong enough. And as well as that, the players that you rely on, the first choice, the experienced players, haven't been doing enough work and haven't been doing the job. Bissouma's been hit and miss. Maddison's been hit and miss, like the players he's talking about there. But the youngsters are the ones that really are the shining light. I kind of agree with what G said, that Ange did bring in these youngsters. Well, I don't think he didn't bring in Spence, did he? But Gray, Bergvall, Kinski. He also got.
That's what I'm saying. He kept Spence.
He kept Spence.
Wanted to put him back out, didn't they? Wanted to get rid of him. He was a hot potato. You know, he wasn't. All the other managers before was to say, "But can't deal with this guy. Can't deal with this guy." But Ange stood up and he goes, "Give him to me."
I feel like there was an attitude change, though, G. Which
he also played in the first 2 games of the season, so it's not like he played him because he didn't have anything, and then he got injured. So it wasn't. That's what I'm saying. That's all I was saying. Sorry, carry on, Craig.
No, it's all right. This is a fan show, G. So I think as your question, you should take this. Perhaps the last bit about Ange's tactics. Do you agree with that? That does Ange get his tactics right, or has he got to change, or do you think he does change?
I think that's completely like. Where does that even come from? I want to know what that question means in reality. Do you know what I mean? Because all it's saying is like, it's one of those copy and paste kind of statements like, he's got no plan B, he's lost the dressing room. And what's the other one we always have? There's one more as well. That it's just copy and paste. You know what I mean? There's no, of course he knows what he's doing. You know, and if anybody wants to know about a plan B, if anyone really wants to test the litmus test of what a plan B would be, let's defend at the back. It happened against Arsenal in the first half. He made the subs. It's done before. Sorry, Chris. I'm just going to say, right, last thing is on that, is that before he's never had the subs. He doesn't have the subs to be able to change the system, to be able to get it that way anyway. Look at our midfield, is very light, you know what I mean? And then he's got to bring players on that are already tired. They can't play. Johnson is one of those. Johnson is not lazy. Do you think Johnson really wants to just like, do you think he's there? No, he's survived getting into the Premier League, in the ultimate Premier League, via the way he's got. He's actually overcome more than most of us have when we were sperm, just to be born. Do you know what I mean? It takes a lot to get there. It really does. It takes a lot to get in that Premier League and take it. Our top scorer, and not just this season, last season too. He only played a few games. He rattled them in and assisted, and yet people are still on his back. Maybe he looks lazy or whatever, but he is knackered. He's got to be knackered. Who else have we got to play out there apart from Kulu, who hasn't got a right leg? Couldn't find one. If he searched a million miles, he hasn't got one. He's great in the middle. Kulu, I'm not knocking him. I love him. He was my favourite player 2 years ago. And then I lost it with him when I found out, they discovered him. But then Ange brought him over to the middle and he's fantastic again. But you can see right now he can't do it. He hasn't got the energy. None of them have the energy levels, that we think they should have, because it's not PlayStation. It's not a computer game. 3 days apart every game. Come on, man.
G, last question very quickly. Score prediction for Sunday.
They can't score against us, right? They can't score against anyone, right? So I will be really, really unhappy if the ref gets on their side again or something like that happens, you know what I mean, and forces the issue. But I can't see that happening. So I think we're going to do 2-0. I said that's a good, conservative estimate, as it were, of the game. But I think we should be able to do that, hopefully, if we can break down the defence. But it's not going to be easy. We've just played Arsenal. Do you think, with the games before that, do you think anything really can change with the players we've got? Do you think their fitness levels are all of a sudden? Do you think Kulu is going to come out on Sunday after travelling all the way up north and go, do you know what? I feel a million times better today. I'm going to play like I always do. You know what I mean? Do you think any of them are going to do that? Because it's not happening. And wait on, Chris, because we have until the middle of February. We have till the middle of February, and one of those, between the cup game, we've got less than 48 hours.
Yeah.
From Liverpool down to the Midlands, you know what I mean, up north. How's that going to work? It's not going to happen, mate.
I get the fitness. We just want a little bit more fight and a bit more desire, and we don't want people like Basuma losing the ball in the middle of the park. So
Basuma's I'm kind of coming to, I always back our players all the time, even Werner. But there comes a time when you have to go, oh, come on, man, you're not doing it for the manager. You're letting everybody down, including yourself, but you're letting the manager down by doing that kind of silly stuff, all the time.
G, thanks so much as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for the therapy, mate.
Cheers, mate. See you soon. Craig, you've now got to leave us. I can't believe I thought I'd only be on here for half an hour or so, but we're in almost 2 hours. I know you've got to go, so thank you so much for all of your incredible input on this stream and all of the others. And have a good evening, Craig.
And you, and thanks to everybody for commenting. A load of great guests, and I think we've got a very special guest about to come back in shortly. That everybody's. You don't want to stay. You don't want to stay for this one. I would love to, but I've seriously got to go. But. Look, it's been great. It's good. There he is.
Hello, Craig. Mate,
Hello.
I love your content, mate. Chris,
thank you.
Love this show. It's therapy.
Stephen, we wanted to ask, where's Sharon, and how many times a day do you get called Ozzy Osbourne?
Well, I get that a lot, but these are like the original John Lennon T-shirts in the 70s that we wore in the 60s and 70s. So John Lennon had them before anybody, But talking of Liverpool. Are we gonna get a result there? That's the game, innit? Liverpool away. Are we gonna get a draw? Can we get a draw? Can we hold out against the best team in the world at the moment? Can we hold out at Anfield on February the 6th? Because I would love it if Ange. I would love it.
I've got to go. Lovely to meet you, Ozzy, Steve.
You, mate. I watch you all the time. You're great, mate.
You're a star. Thanks a lot. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.
Bye.
Stephen, it's funny how you should ask that. Are you asking me, or are you telling me that we're going to go and pick up the result?
Because look, Chris, you go to every single game. You're the biggest Tottenham fan in the world. Now, you see more than anybody. I know you watch the reserves, the women, everything. You are like, hey, be careful with that comment. You watch the women, Chris. What I'm saying is, what do you think is going to happen at Anfield? Because I fear we're going to get a tonking. I hope I'm wrong.
It's very, very difficult at the moment to predict what's going to happen. And like I said to G just there, you just want every single player to give absolutely everything. That is the thing. In any game, cup game, league game, whatever it is, home away, you want the team to be given passion. to show the heart, to show the desire. And, this is a cup final at stake. Going through to that cup final, we've got a real chance of lifting a trophy in the first time in 17 years.
We have. On a one-off game, if Ange's on it, like he proved at the Etihad, I mean, that 4-0 performance, after that, I thought, oh, God, this is fantastic. I thought, I was wrong to ever doubt him. But then what's happened after the City game, I can't believe it. I cannot believe what's happened. And I want him to succeed so much. And I'm going to try and be positive. Let's go to Everton on Sunday and get a result. I think, say, James Maddison, to me, has to start. What do you think? Do you think James has got to start yourself? Or
I want to see a lot more from James Maddison in games.
Yeah, I know.
I really do.
I know.
Yeah.
But when he's on his game, look what he did at the Etihad, James Maddison. He was amazing. But I don't think in certain games that you can play him and Kulu in the middle of the park. I think you've got to sacrifice one, and I don't want to sacrifice either of them, but I think the solution will be play James in the middle, put Kulu on the right, obviously Sonny on the left, Solanke, but Bergval's got to start, and I think he will. Maybe Pat and Matasar. Bissouma, I'm very disappointed in Bissouma. That player we bought from Brighton, I'm very disappointed in him. Obviously, Archie Gray is going to play with a Romanian boy. And it's going to be Porro and Jed Spence. And obviously, Kingsley picks himself. I think he's got a bit of unfair stick, Kingsley, after last night. Because, his best game. But I've got a lot of faith in that goalkeeper. Because I think, like you say, he's been thrown in at the deep end. The first 3 games, I mean, the North London derby, Liverpool in the Cup. And obviously the other game. But let's go to Goodison. Let's go and get a result. I feel we're going to get beat, but I just want to put that. It's very hard to ever predict a Tottenham defeat, isn't it? If you love the club, and I'm trying to be not realistic. I just want to hope, like Brian Daigle said, if you'd offer me a draw now at Goodison, I would take it. I would take it because they're going to be up for it. They know, they can smell weakness.
We need a lot more than a point, though, Stephen.
No, I know, but if we get beat, I mean, Palace could overtake us. Everton beat us. They're going to be very close to us, aren't they?
Let's not think about that right now.
Oh no, let's be positive.
Time to dare to do says here, our young guns are the only ones doing us proud. How proud of you, how impressed have you been with the likes of Archie Gray, Bergval, and of course Jed Spence? Because it looked like Jed Spence was going to be heading out the door, and Postecoglou's giving him a chance. He's taken the chance, hasn't he?
I thought it was disgraceful the way Antonio Conte just ignored Jed Spence. I know he was a club signing, not a manager signing, but that boy, he's been fantastic. And of course, he played out of position, didn't he? He played at centre half in one of the games, So, so I think Jed Spence is fantastic. I think Forrest obviously regretting that he left them, but the young players have been fantastic, and I think I never want to see anyone have a go at Sonny, because to me, when Harry Kane wanted to leave to go to Manchester City, Sonny signed a new contract. Heung-min Son is one of my favourite Tottenham players of all time. I love that man, and to me, he walks on water. I know he's not quite at it at the moment, but he's getting older. But I would not write that man off yet. I would look at last night. I know he got a deflection, but he's got quality. The corner against United that went in, the man has got quality, and I don't write him off. Yeah, he might not be like Ange said. If Salah was in Tottenham, Salah might struggle. Sonny's had to go to South Korea and back, and you've done that flight, Chris. You know how taxing that flight must be.
Yeah.
And don't write him off. Don't write Sonny off. It makes me almost cry when people slagging him off, because to me, Sonny is a great. He's been a great player for this club. One of the greatest players we've ever had. And I know we haven't won nothing. And to me, I want us to win a trophy. Even more than for the fans, I want to win it for that man. What he's given to this club. Yeah, I know he's well paid and all that, but what he's given to our club. When Harry Kane was injured, look what he did against Manchester City to get us through to the semi-final of the Champions League. One of my greatest ever memories is when we beat Ajax. You were there, Chris. My favourite ever Tottenham memory was Ricky Villa. Because we won something, and I do think. I hope Ange. Please, Ange, if you're watching this, mate, it's what we do. Do it for us. Prove me wrong. Prove us all wrong, us doubters. Because I don't want to doubt you. I want you to prove me wrong, and I want you to win us that trophy. And I hope to God, if there's a God out there, you know, and we can't have Keir Starmer's club winning anything, can we? He's making a mess of the country. He's the one that cut me off earlier, you know, when it went dark, because I criticised his government. He cut me power off, I tell you. Anyway, enough of politics. Chris, it's been fantastic talking to you. You're the best. Your channel is fantastic. And I watch a few channels. I love the boys at We Are Tottenham TV, and I love Expressions. He's the poet laureate at Tottenham. That boy is fantastic. And Spurs, the other one that I watch. But yours is my favourite channel, and it's therapy. When Spurs get beat, I've got to come to Chris Cowlin, get some therapy, you know, because I'm a Tottenham fan and I'm in recovery.
Stephen, thank you so much.
Chris, love you, man.
Great to talk to you. I'll speak to you soon. Come on, you Spurs. Right, we're now going to go to Noel. Noel, how are you? Noel, I think you're on mute. Oh, he's gone off. Let's take a comment here from Time to Dare to Do again. We need at least 3 top-class players in January. Completely agree. As I've said many times on this evening's show and many others in the past, Tottenham Hotspur need a number of signings. And Postecoglou keeps asking for help. He needs help. You know, we need help if we're going to go far in these cup competitions this season and climb up that Premier League table. He does need help, and the signings do need to come in. We might get Noel back in a second. He's just gone offline. So we're going to go to Steve. Steve, evening. How are you? Hello, Steve.
Hi.
Good evening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. You?
Yeah. Your thoughts on the Arsenal game Wednesday evening?
Well, it's never nice when you lose to Arsenal, is it? No, that was a bit of a sucker punch, but you know, I did see some fight last night. We could have gone there. They could have steamrolled us, but I definitely saw some fight last night, which is all you can ask for at the moment with all the injuries we've got. So, yeah, not nice to lose against Arsenal. Always disappointing to lose, but yeah, let's hope we can turn it around and get a result on Sunday.
Steve, how confident are you that Tottenham can turn this around, go on a run, climb up the Premier League table? Because as I keep mentioning on this evening's show, 13th in the league table, it's something that we're not used to, certainly in recent years.
You've got to have hope, haven't you? Do you know what I mean? You've got to have hope that we will turn it around and results will improve. Do you know what I mean? But if we can win a cup, maybe that's what will, kick us on a bit more. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, you've just got to have hope, and like when we get our players back, then things can be turned around really, really quickly. But you're right. We definitely need to start picking up results starting on Sunday. Because, like we said many times tonight, we're 8 points off relegation, which isn't good enough, is it really? So, I mean, how are you feeling?
Do you know, I feel a bit deflated actually, Steve, today. I said earlier on the show I weren't even going to do any videos today, and then I had so many Spurs fans contact me today saying that you need to do one of these live shows, and it's difficult when you lose a London derby and you've lost. We've only had one win in the last 9 in the Premier League. It's tough, and when you look at that Premier League table, I don't want to be seeing Spurs in 13th. Certainly not in January. I think a lot of people are pinning their hopes and staying hopeful on these cup competitions. I feel like if we did go out of one of these cups, I feel like some of the attitude with some of the fans will change. But, as a lot of fans have said tonight, it's about the transfer window. It's about backing the manager. And it's about, giving Ange Postecoglou the tools and the players, that he can use now and have that impact now. From the way that you're talking, you're probably thinking then that, when a lot of these players come back from injury, you think that is going to turn things around and be a real positive in giving strength to Ange Postecoglou's team and then getting the results. Is that right?
Yeah, but we do need additions in this January transfer window because I was sat here thinking earlier, this sort of with regards to like getting transfers in and stuff like that, when we went toe to toe with Leicester, was it 2015 season? Is that right? we should have invested then to kick on again, and we didn't. And like in 2019, got to a Champions League final, we should have invested better then. So I think this problem's pretty much been going on since 2019. And yeah, we've had these win now managers come in, and we've done okay, but we haven't won anything. But it all comes down to proper recruitment. Do you know what I mean? And I think now, Andrew's come in, and we've had to literally strip an entire squad, including our top goal scorer, all-time top goal scorer, is gone. It's going to be difficult. Because you've got to replace those players, and you have to start again. Do you know what I mean? So I think this problem has been occurring since 2019. To be honest with you. So
do you think do you think that some of the fan base are a little bit impatient then, Steve? Because the amount of comments that have gone on, or the amount of stats that have been published on social media today, is that what you're saying? Give Ange more time? Because I feel like a lot of people are losing patience in the fact that we are only 8 points away from the relegation zone. Sorry to keep bringing that stat up, but it's facts.
Yeah, I mean, Pochettino was a great manager, but even he said, it's not worth having a nice house if we haven't got the furniture to put in it. And they didn't back him. And then they sacked him. And then we had Jose come in, didn't really back him. They sacked him. Conte didn't want to be there. We felt like he was doing us a favour, but he wasn't properly backed. Yes, we got Champions League football in his first season, but I think that was more luck than anything. So then Conte, and then Nuno came in, wasn't given the time. And look at Nuno now. Forest invested heavily last season, and they're reaping the rewards of it now because they're now sat in third in the Premier League. So you have to give these managers time. You can't keep going through managers after managers, because if they sack Ange Postecoglou now, 18 months' time, we could be back in the same position again. And so I don't think we should be sacking managers. And it feels different because obviously, like many people said tonight, especially G, he said, usually by now, Postecoglou would have gone, but maybe the board have realised now that, and I read someone today, are they still backing him?
Yeah.
Yeah. So something's different. Maybe they've now realised that, sacking the manager is not going to help. I know it's frustrating for us Spurs fans, and I know a lot of people want him out, but I don't think that's going to be the answer. I think we need to ride the storm out. If we can get a cup this season, and like I said before previously, we're one toe in the final. Why can't we go up to Liverpool, get a draw or a result? I know our record's not great up there, but things are possible.
Big game. Like I said in the podcast last night, Steve, we need to go to grounds like the Emirates, Stamford Bridge, Anfield, and get results at these places, because we very, very rarely get the results there. Steve, finally, score prediction for the Everton game?
I want to say 2-1 win, but with the way we're playing at the moment, it's probably going to be a draw. Best we can hope for is a draw, I think, because like I say, best 1-1, I think. So.
Steve, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks so much for coming on a lot of the previous shows as well. So we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Brilliant, Chris. Great show. Thanks again. Cheers,
mate. We are now going to go back to Noel. Marcus, I'll come to you in a second. Noel, how are you?
A wee bit like yourself, Chris. I think I'm very deflated.
Yeah.
Actually, been watching a lot of your shows recently, and
sorry about that.
I saw you with a smile on your face this evening, but some of the shows I saw you recently, I think you were in a house for the bewildered. I think we're all. I think the last. I remember sending you an email after the Man City match, and I just looked at it there this evening. I think it was the 24th of November, and we won 4-0. And what have we done since? Absolutely nothing. And I mean, you can blame injuries. Injuries are a big factor. Of course they are. But I mean, the performance last night, I think we must be one of the most unlucky teams of all time. I mean, okay, we didn't deserve to win. But I mean, what's far for it was a corner, not an obvious and clear error, which led to a goal. I mean, okay, we'll write that off. But the second goal, we give the ball away, cheap defending, and not closing men down. So everybody in that team, in this first team at the moment, seems to have lost, their focus and the way to play. We're asking young boys like Archie Gray and Lucas Bergville to do men's jobs, and by God they are. They're doing a fantastic job. But I'm just looking through the team there yesterday. Very very few people covered themselves in glory. I mean, the basics. You have to go through them. Pedro Porro, I thought he was a fantastic player, but I'm beginning to have serious doubts about him. He seems to pick the wrong option and runs into blind alleys. I know he has scored goals before. And Sonny seems to have fallen off a cliff. Didn't score the penalty against Wolves, which probably would have got us another 2 points. Midfield's all over the place. Doesn't seem to know his midfield. Name me another manager that will actually take 2 players off at halftime. Most managers only take one. To take Bazuma off. I can understand why he did take Sarr. I suppose he was on a cheap booking, and there was always the possibility of a second red card. Johnson seems to be a passenger completely. He just seems to have been completely lost his sparkle. A few months ago, I thought this lad was going to be, a world beater. Seems to be bewildered. It just goes on and on and on. Is there something we don't know? Have the players lost faith with Ange? I love Ange and I love his style of football. But I think in actual fact, we're sitting in a very precarious position at the moment. We've got one foot in the final, and whether we can go up to Liverpool and do it. And it is a possibility. We've already won at Man City this year. We've beaten Aston Villa. We've beaten Manchester United away. It's not impossible. We don't have a good record there. We can get to the final, but it would need everybody, to have a monumental shift in attitude. Like even Kulusevski is being shifted from midfield to wing, back to midfield. Sometimes in the same game, and I think he's completely looks lost at the moment. Solanke's trying hard, no support last night, nothing. It's deflating to say the least. Sorry, Chris, I'm going on a bit.
I was going to say no. I agree with everything you've said. Noel, you're always great on this channel. What I wanted to say though, you mentioned about losing focus. Is it losing focus with some of these players, or are some of them absolutely exhausted because they've had to cover, all of the players out injured, and a lot of these players are playing a lot of games. Of course, Ange, called last season for more matches. Of course, we've got many more matches this season, but of course we haven't got the squad depth. The injuries. I said it in the summer. You need a couple more experienced players coming in the door. We didn't get those extra signings. I feel like that is a little bit frustrating because I always felt that a couple of injuries to key players, we would be in a seriously poor position again, which has proved to be right. I know hindsight is a wonderful thing, but I just felt like that was really obvious. That we were kind of in this, not so bad, but we were in this position last year. A couple of key injuries to players. The bench doesn't look that strong. And when you're rotating and when you're fighting on all fronts, especially trying to go far in cup competitions, with Ange saying that, always wins a trophy in his second season. I know that's been blown out of proportion a little bit. But we are in a semi-final of a League Cup. And I agree with you. That is an absolutely massive game. And every single player needs to be on top of their game 110%, because that place at Anfield is going to be absolutely buzzing under the lights, and that is a very, very tough place for us to go. But do you think it is about a lot of these players being absolutely knackered? And I use that word knackered because that's exactly what the Guardian newspaper used today.
The word that's used in Ireland a lot, Chris. We all talk about being knackered. I think you're right. I mean, absolutely. I mean, the demands on players nowadays. I don't think the ordinary man in the street realizes, the demands on a professional footballer. The pressure, to keep fit. The travel involved. The turnaround times. Traveling to Eastern Europe maybe on a Thursday night, coming back maybe on a Friday. And then playing again on a Sunday. I mean, it's bound to, you know yourself when you're traveling, even as a passenger to any of these, it takes you 2 days to acclimatise again. I mean, I can't for my life of me understand why UEFA added 2 more games to the schedule. This year we're playing 8 games, in the Europa Cup instead of 6. Those 2 games, if we didn't have those 2 games, it would make an awful difference. You're absolutely right. The injuries have taken a massive taking their toll. like, but we did rush these players back. You know, I mean, I thought at the start, you know, that Romero, who had went and got injured, I think in Argentina, you know, and I'm always, you know, Sonny goes sometimes off to Korea and gets injured. Romero goes to, I know you can't stop players from traveling that distance, but you're expecting somebody to go to Argentina, coming back in midweek and playing again at the next weekend. It's just absolute madness what players have been expected to do. But that's the cards that we've been dealt at the moment. I think one bright spark is Jed Spence. I think if we had a decent left back cover, Spence should be number one choice as right back. Against our created goal within the first minute. And his ball last night into Solanke, it was only for fantastic defending. I think it was Gabriel or whatever his name is, you know, got it off the line. So I think he was shabbily treated. And I think it's good that Ange has brought him into the fold. He left him out of the Europa Cup squad. You know, obviously now if we progress in that, he obviously is going to be the first guys back in it. That's a big plus. I would have thought defensively, maybe, you know, they should have went back and, you know, got Ashley Phillips back in from Stoke as a cover for back. And I'm sure if we don't sign anybody soon, I'm sure he probably will come back again by the end of the window. But, you know, we are so short. I mean, Bentancur, I know you've covered this before, but, you know, what was this crime? Jesus Christ. I mean, you know, I'm not even going to say what he said, but unbelievably blown out of all proportion, gets a 7-match ban, comes back, gets booked in his first match, and misses another game, comes back and is injured within 10 minutes. My God, how lucky can you get? I think he would be a big plus to have back, give us a bit of control in midfield. But, you know, I would love to see, you know, getting a settled midfield. Doesn't seem to know a settled midfield. That, you know, we can't play anybody else at the back. That's all we have. So, you know, get your front six on a more settled basis. The less said about Timo Werner, I thought he was a fabulous player at one time. Doesn't seem to have any end product. I feel sorry for him. Completely void of any confidence. Seems to take the wrong choice. So lots of deflation at the moment. But Chris, I've always been glass half full rather than half empty. I'm a bit an Everton fan, and I know you're going to ask me about my predictions for Sunday. And I'm going for a 2-0 Spurs, but because by God, we cannot afford to lose that one. And I would say Ange's future depends a lot on what happens in the next 2 games. Anything less than 4 points in those 2 games, and maybe, you know, going out of one of the cups early, it wouldn't look good.
No, I'm going to finish with a couple of quick ones for you. Will Spurs win a trophy this season?
Possibly Europa Cup, Europa League.
And where do you think Spurs will finish in the Premier League table?
9th.
And lastly, will Ange Postecoglou be our manager at the start of next season?
I hope he is.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. No, you're always such a great guest. Thank you so much for joining us again, and we look forward to having you on the Spurs Chat podcast again very soon.
I was traveling home and I didn't see the link to very, very late, but I'm delighted to be on. Always love to contribute, and I was delighted when I tuned in at the start. You had a broad smile on you, and you're much more handsome when you smile, Chris. You know, so smile more often. You know.
I'll tell you what, you're not the first person. When you first come on and said about how miserable I've been, a lot of people have actually come up to me at the stadium and said you're knife grumpy lately. But I tell you what, when you go through this run, you know, 1 win in 9, it's hard. It's hard sometimes.
I don't know how you do it. I honestly don't know how you do it, because I saw all the comments, and one guy I think called you a miserable git or something, and you had to grin through it, you know. So not me anyway. There you go, Chris.
That's nothing. No, I'll get called a lot worse than that. So don't worry about that. No, have a great evening. Thanks so much, and I'll speak to you soon.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Right, we're now going to go to Marcus. Marcus, good evening. How are you?
Chris, I'm very well, thank you very much. The Chris Cowlin crisis calling.
Blimey, yeah.
Tonight.
Do you know what? I thought I'll send the link out. I thought I'd only be on here for half an hour. 2 hours, 15 minutes later, here we are. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, a bit deflated to be fair. You just wonder when the next win's gonna going to come from, and it has to come quickly. I think, the stats are shocking, and I've felt not just recently. I felt for the last sort of probably since the Ipswich game. I think we should be looking over our shoulder. I'm fed up hearing we're X number of points off top four and we're closer to relegation, and actually we should be looking over our shoulders, because I think the next two league games are absolutely vital. I agree with Noel. 4 points from those two is the minimum requirement. But I said on a previous show recently, winning's a habit. It's a good habit to get into. At the moment, you think what's going to change within the squad, the mentality to trigger that win. And it might, if it's a 1-0 fluky away win goes in off Solanke's backside, I'd take it all day long. But at the moment, you just wonder what it is that's going to change that. We won at the weekend at Tamworth, and 3-0 on paper is a good result, but even the manner of that victory was pretty unacceptable, to be fair. But then I also think, we beat Man United in the cup, we beat Liverpool in the cup with pretty much the same set of players. So it's the mentality of getting up for a cup match versus the rough and tough of a 38 game league, and the players don't seem to be at the moment at the races in terms of getting points on the board to get us away from the predicament that we're in. To be honest, I'm looking at the scores tonight. I'm looking at Ipswich. I'm looking at Southampton. I'm looking at Man United. It's sort of trying to almost rely on other clubs' results. Thank God Leicester have lost 5 in a row. It's not a great situation at the moment.
Marcus, we all know that Ange Postecoglou walked into a bit of a mess, and then, of course, Harry Kane was then sold, our record goal scorer of all time. What improvements would you say overall? What are you really happy with from Ange Postecoglou coming in the door to now? What have you been really happy with?
I think the style of football, his pragmatism. With Conte, I think it felt like he was doing us a favour to be at the club. So there's a certain sort of humility, I think, that Postecoglou's brought in, good discipline, youthful signings, good prospects. He's brought some stability to the club. But at the moment, this season feels like in the music industry, it's the difficult second album. This is his difficult second season where he's over-delivered. Oh, you're so handsome when you smile, Chris, as the previous caller said. There you go, we like that one. It's a difficult second season. He probably over-delivered. I thought last season we would be having the season that we were having currently. Really, to be fair, I think fifth was he over-delivered, and now we've taken a big step back. He hasn't built on those foundations.
Marcus, what are your expectations in this transfer window? Because, of course, as we all know, the board are always criticised about transfer windows, that we don't get business done early enough, we don't spend money enough, etc., etc. There are so many different theories and statements from fans about the board and about the managers. What are your expectations? What is realistic in this window? Because I think we all agree. I know there's a lot of mixed opinions, different opinions amongst the Spurs fan base, but I think we all agree that we need signings in and fast and impact players that are going to make an impact straight away.
Make a difference. Yeah, absolutely. So it's back him or sack him, isn't it? Really, they've got to invest in the squad in this window, and that sends a statement of intent in terms of backing the manager. But we need strengthening in a couple of key areas. The midfield's light. I think Bissouma's not consistent. Maddison we've talked about all season in terms of his contribution. It's the young guns that have come in that have really elevated the quality of the squad. Your Bergvaus, Jed Spencer's come in and done really well. I think he's an absolute given. Archie Gray, Man United have just scored. Archie Gray, top draw. Them for me are the players that you've got to build the team around going forward. But we need to make some reinforcements. I mean, Kolo Muani was talked about for over a week, and he's opted for Champions League football. But unless we do an Odeberg, which is really rare in this day and age, that a player signs and there's been no rumours, no media speculation. He signed on the dotted line, the lad from Burnley who's out. I don't see us being linked with too many players at the moment in the press, but we need some fresh. I mean, the goalkeeper, of course, I think he's been very good in the 3 games, but I think clearly we need to bring in some fresh blood and competition for places.
Marcus, you mentioned there that Man United are now 2-1 up. They were 1-0 down after 43 minutes. They got an equaliser in the 82nd minute. They've just got a winner, it looks like, in the 90th minute. Spurs are now down to 14th.
Yes, that's what I said earlier. We are sort of almost relying on others below us because we are just sort of dropping a sort of a place each game. Hence, you know, it puts emphasis on Sunday's game against Everton. A lot of teams will have played on the Saturday ahead of us, might bring a bit more pressure. But I think the next two league games, Everton away, Leicester at home, really a make or break.
Marcus, with that Everton game, if you were Ange Postecoglou, what would you be changing for that trip at Goodison Park in terms of team selection and setup?
Blimey. I'll be going to the medical department, see he's sort of available and ready. I said the other week he's the custodian of the club, and what I meant by that was it's not his. He doesn't own it. I think he's got to bend. He's got to try something else. This isn't his own. The club and team isn't his own sort of personal toy or plaything, and I think that's why I've been disappointed that he hasn't adapted. He's been obstinate. He's continued with his philosophy, and he hasn't bent from that at all. And I think actually some short-term pragmatism is really needed to, you know, if we need to play, I don't know, 5 at the back and hit it long, then that's what we have to do in the current situation. And he just hasn't deviated from his ethos, despite the fact that there's been no uplift in results whatsoever. So it's clearly not working, but a hard place to go. They've not had a new manager bounce. They lost at home to Everton. Sorry, at home to Villa last night. I think we've got to go there and put up a battle. So I want to see some. And we've heard this before, so I'm banging on. But last night, you know, it's not good enough. Players they were too passive. We've heard this before after several defeats, and there hasn't been the reaction in the following game. But I think there really needs to be one against Everton on Sunday, some sort of response from the players that he has. And I think the players have got to look at themselves and say, am I doing enough? Because at the moment it feels like it's the teenagers that are actually, to a large extent, driving the team forward and setting the example. That's simply not good enough.
What upset me earlier is when I saw the video of Heung-min Son talking after yesterday's defeat, and he was saying how painful that defeat was. One of the comments was, this video could have been played any time during the last 5 seasons, and any of us wouldn't have guessed what game it was from. When do things change at the football club and then we don't hear this sort of stuff, you know, again, because we've heard it from Harry Kane, we've heard it from Hugo Lloris, we're now hearing it from Heung-min Son. And how many times on this channel where I said, you know, someone like Heung-min Son, what a great career he's had at Spurs, but to walk away from the football club, like the fact that Hugo Lloris has, and Harry Kane and Christian Eriksen, and so many decent players that we've had over the years, walking away from the football club without a trophy, I tell you, I despair of it sometimes.
Yeah, I think, you know, social media fodder, it winds me up when the players put, you know, we'll learn from this, we'll use it as fuel, we go again. I mean, it's just, you know, it's nonsense. I think it's disingenuous. It's sort of almost bloody chatbot, you know, they just, I don't think it's heartfelt. It's just something, I don't think fans largely respond well to that kind of post-game attitude. But yeah, it would be a shame if you know, he won't be the first. I think there's some stat out there, Chris, that says of all the players that have left Tottenham since we last won a trophy, I can't tell you the number of trophies that those players have won at the clubs that they've left Tottenham and joined. And I'm sure somebody out there will stick it in the chat, probably 100 or so. But yeah,
Marcus. Lastly, are you big on social media? Do you go on social media on a day like this when we've lost to Arsenal?
No, that's why I'm Marcus at IRL, Chris. In real life, I don't. I keep off the socials. That's what that stands for.
Love it.
Apart from the YouTubes, Chris, your channel keeps me company big time at work when I'm not on calls and videos, and I'll have it going on in the background. So you probably to a large degree are my social media outlet, but now I keep off. I like to express myself verbally in real life. There's too much nonsense on there for me to get drawn into.
Well, thank you
Probably
so much
makes
to
me
all of
very
you.
uncool, Chris.
Yeah, well, no, thank you for all your support on the channel. And Man United are now 3-1 up, by the way. Marcus, very last question for you. Prediction for the Everton game, and are you still behind Ange?
Sunday 2-2. Still behind Ange. Yeah, I can't see a viable alternative, but I think he could help himself big time if he were to show some flexibility in his approach. Absolutely, but yeah.
Well, Marcus, thank you so much for coming on. As I say, I expected this live to last about half an hour, and we're 2.5 hours in. So thank you so much for your input, and look forward to talking to you again, perhaps one day soon.
Yeah, nice one, Chris. Keep up the great work.
Thank you,
Look
Marcus.
after yourself.
Cheers.
Mate.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I think that is it. I think that is it for the guests. So almost 2.5 hours. A big thank you to Craig Dearman for hosting most of the chat with me, and a big thank you to everyone who has got involved this evening on this fan show. I absolutely love doing these fan shows. So if you would like to get involved in a future one, please do send me an email, tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. That is tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. The Everton game is, of course, absolutely huge. Let's hope that we can get a win, because it is really needed. 1 win in 9 in the Premier League. Of course, next week we travel to Germany in the Europa League to play Hoffenheim. That is another must-win game, because, of course, we want to automatically qualify for that competition. But as I say, if you did want to get involved in a future episode, please do send me an email. Have a great evening. Have a great rest of the week, and I will see you again very soon. Come on, you Spurs.